Live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Red Devil Experience. My name is Eric. How you all doing? Hope everybody is doing well. We got the latest Manchester United updates. Could potentially Manchester United be forced into the sale, or well, not the sale, but the buying of Victor Gyokeres, considering that Manchester United's other striker targets seem to be going off the list and going to other clubs. We obviously have updates about Delap. There's updates about Sancho. And we got some more United news updates as well. So we're going to get into all that. It's going to be a good discussion, good live. Make sure you smash the like button because it helps the channel grow. So we appreciate that. It's the best way. Support the channel. Smash that like button. If you enjoyed the content and you're not a member, subscribe. Hit the subscribe button. Make sure you hit the notification bell icon so you stay up to date with all the lives and you know when we go live and you don't miss a part of the show. But other than that, let's just get straight to it. I'm gonna be real. Today I wasn't a day that I was able to keep up with all of the news like I usually do. I'm usually very filled in by the time we go to do these shows. I seen a couple things here and there. I seen some other stuff that I wasn't really gonna read. So today would be a show that we'll do it together. Pretty much. We'll go through it together. Maybe some of you are more informed than me today. Some of you sometimes are, some of you aren't, but that's all right. Doesn't matter. That's why we're a community. So, pretty much, let's just kick things off with, so obviously, Delap is going to Chelsea. It's like, I'm pretty sure Romano has confirmed it. If I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure he gave a here we go. If I saw that correctly. So Delap, who was United's supposedly #1 target by the football club, has now gone to Chelsea. We were in the Discord and we were chatting about, what kind of options do we got at striker, because obviously we need a striker. And Box listed about 15 players. And then I joined in and said Sesko, because my thinking was, if you can't get Delap and you can't get Gyokeres, because up until about 40 minutes ago, we all just figured that Gyokeres was going to go to Arsenal, probably, most likely. It seemed that way. But apparently, Arsenal are preparing to make a bid for Sesko, Benjamin Sesko. Now, there's a quoted price of 90 million for that. We were talking about that in the Discord as well, talking about he's not worth 90 million, and they're smoking something funny over there, RB Leipzig. But I feel like maybe it wasn't real, but I feel like they'll probably get him for under 90 million for sure, because he ain't worth it. He ain't worth that. So I just want to get this list of strikers that Box listed off, because you know what? It was actually a good list. So Lyle was like, who do we target now? Because Delap is gone. And he said, there's Ekatike, who's at Frankfurt, Schicks at Leverkusen, there's Keane at Fiorentina, Vlahovic at Juventus, Kolomouani at PSG, Sorloth at Atletico Madrid, Pavlidis at Benfica, Pedro at Brighton, and Doye at Bologna, and Mateta at Crystal Palace. And that's when I jumped in with Sesko, because I'm be quite honest, Ekatike is a good young talent, high ceiling probably, lots of potential, but not proven to the extent that I keep saying that we need. Obviously, similar to Delap, but I think he would cost much more than Delap. Delap was the cheap option. I think maybe Schick, maybe you could get him for cheaper. I'm not sure, but out of that list, I'm looking at that and I'm like, I don't really want any of them, to be quite honest. I mean, I would probably, out of that list, I'd probably take Ekatike over most of them, and maybe Mateta. I don't really feel like Schick might be able to do a job. Definitely not Keane. Vlahovic, I'm very iffy about. I mean, he used to be hot. He's not so hot anymore. I don't think I actually don't even know if he's probably doing okay, but it ain't what we need. Sorloth is all right. Pavlidis, or Pavlidis, whatever his name is, at Benfica. Definitely don't want him. I got a Benfica friend. I mean, he's been scoring lots of goals recently, but prior to that, he was quite shit. and he would jokingly tell me to go buy Pavlidis because we're known to do bad deals. It was like, please go buy him from us because he didn't want him. So Pedro, I mean, he might not be a bad option, João Pedro, but yeah, I mean, it's a bit it's again, it's looking a bit bleak, right? It's looking a bit bleak like last time when we were talking. It is looking a bit bleak, but the thumbnail says 1% chance, 99% faith, because pretty much, I mean, the big question was, it was the first thing that popped into my head, and it went all over social media. If Arsenal are going for Sesko and Chelsea have gotten Delap, where does Gyokeres go? Because if he's trying to go to the Prem, I don't really know where else he would go, except for maybe Liverpool, if they sell Darwin Nunez, and if they want to spend that much money on a striker. I don't know what their transfer plans are, but I could see that happening, because, I mean, they are champions, and they are in the Champions League, so, and they probably have a good amount of money, considering they didn't really spend last summer, so they got a nice budget there waiting for them. The other thing that maybe I kind of think about is, well, maybe Chelsea could do it, because Chelsea like to spend loads of money. They have no problem with that. They've been doing it since, I mean, they did it under Abramovich, but they've really been doing it since Bowley. So, I could feel like, at the same time, well, maybe they signed Delap and Gyokeres. But then, other than that, I don't really know where he would end up going if he wants to go to the Premier League. And then, other leagues and other teams that I've got to be big teams. He's not going to go to Madrid. Madrid have enough players, and I don't think they want him. And Boss is not looking at it, as far as I know. So I don't really know where else he would go, to be quite honest. So maybe, just maybe, and this is a far throw, long shot, but we're grasping at all the straws. Maybe United get forced into this. Maybe they get forced into this. I mean, again, he's there for 60, 70 million. I know the talk out of the club, Ruben Amorim making some quotes, Omar Barada speaking the other day, didn't fill most United fans with the most confidence that we were going to go and do what we've been talking about, whereas we got to sell, and dismantle this squad and go out and spend a bunch of money from the sales and rebuild it and buy as many players as possible. That tone doesn't necessarily seem like it's coming out of the football club. I mean, Ruben Amorim talking about we're limited by financial fair play and we're going to have to improve what we can, but we do have to make changes. It's sort of a mixed kind of signal coming out. Are we broke or are we not? Are we going to be able to sign players or can we not sign players? What they came out and made statements, but they didn't really clarify. I think they made people wonder more and ask more questions than give answers to the questions we already had, because you can't say in one breath, we have to make changes and we're going to make changes, but then in the same breath also say, we're limited by FFP and it's going to be difficult. I mean, what does that mean? Can we spend money or can we not spend money? Can we sign players or can we not sign players? It's one or the other. I mean, I don't really know. It's one point, maybe if we can't spend a lot, like, 250 million, and maybe we have to spend less. But, like, the message coming out of the football club is kind of just weird. Lumen is here. Lyle is here. Shout out to those guys. Box is here as well. Lyle says Gyokeres for 55 million, though. Lyle said maybe Pedro, but Brighton will ask for big bucks. Well, yeah. I mean, and Lyle said Gyokeres for 55 million pounds, though. Come on. We're not spending 30 million on Delap now. So surely a deal can be made, but this will need some powerful negotiations. Well, listen. I mean, we were sort of at a different stage at one point, and I guess it depends on Gyokeres, right? It depends on how he feels and what he's willing to kind of do, I guess, because, we did sign Paul Pogba, and I know it's a different story because Pogba was at the club one time, but we weren't in Champions League, and we've signed players before when we weren't in Champions League. I guess it's how good we sell the project and the willingness of Gyokeres to come. Gyokeres, I think, like many people, my number one target has been Gyokeres all along. I think he would be fantastic in the Prem. Now, there's people out there probably somewhere that are going to argue, well, you know, if he's so great, why aren't Arsenal going to get him? I mean, it's a fair point. And you know, they're going for Sesko. But I mean, beggars can't be choosers, and I think, you know, if they're going for Sesko, they're going for Sesko. But United, I take Victor Gyokeres every day of the week. You know, I'll do whatever I got. I'll start a GoFundMe if I got to get him in there, because I think there ain't really any other players that are sort of on that level in terms of experience and goal scoring ability. And we really need that. We do. So, Box says 55 million is a great deal. And again, listen, I mean, if I was at United, I would be looking at this and I would be saying, the guy has a 100 million buyout clause. I actually think it's a great opportunity, the fact that Sporting and Gyokeres have a verbal agreement that he's allowed to leave for around 55, 60 million. So, I don't understand why the club is so reserved in trying to do this deal. You know, and people will say it's a money thing, but I mean, let's just talk about the other thing. You know, Chelsea are going to sign Jadon Sancho, as far as we know, because things are in negotiations right now. They're negotiating a contract, a permanent contract. And if that goes well, which I believe it will, because they're usually formalities, and you don't see too many of them fall through nowadays, especially because he's already at the club. I feel like maybe, you know, worst comes to worst, he might make a little bit of a concession, because I don't know how much interest he's gotten him in other places, and maybe he kind of wants to just stay in London. So I feel like the negotiations will go well. We should get the 25 million from Sancho. This can be done quickly. That's 25 million extra in our pocket, plus the 30 million that we were just about to spend on Delap equals Gyokeres. So I don't really understand how the club can even, you know, try and, I guess, weasel their way out, or you know, not even attempt. I mean, the money will be there. For the very least, because if we're not spending 30 million on Delap and we're getting 25 million from Sancho, that's 55 million. Now, do they give us all the 55 million? Probably not. I mean, they're probably going to allocate some money, like you do, like what happens in career mode, because that does happen. I don't think they give you all 55 million, but I mean, the fact that we're still looking to sell Rashford and Anthony and stuff like that, we should be able to do this deal. So I don't really understand the club's position and not really trying to do it. I think we should be all geared up. Now, maybe it's because Gyokeres has already told him that you ain't got Champions League, I don't want to come. But that shouldn't even stop us. I think we should be as aggressive as possible trying to, you know, change his opinion and change his mind. Because I just don't know where the club goes from here. And we need a striker, 100%. You know, so... surely we have a trump card in Amorim. I mean, and you know, for example, for not having the Champions League, I mean, we do have the other side that, you know, Amorim was his former manager. They have a good relationship. He's the one that kind of took him to the next level in that system. So does it balance the scales out a little bit more? Maybe for us, maybe it could be. I mean, the fans would like to hope so and think so. So, and I like to hope so and think so too. So I guess we got to see, but we're going to get to actual news updates. I'm just giving you my opinion on the couple things that I've heard and seen, but I'll actually read out a bunch of the news updates. Usually I bring them here, but I didn't have time to put them up on the screen today. So Temesgin says, United, I want Danny Munoz, Semedo, Osimhen, Mastentuano, Cherky, Emi Martinez, Simmons, Rios. To United is better for next season. Please, Ineos. Temesgin always coming with a different list. Always with a different list. Box says paint the picture that he'll have Bruno, Cunha, and Ahmad feeding him. Lyle says, "Hello, true. Amorim got Cunha in the tunnel. Surely a phone call would help." Well, if I'm Amorim, I'm leaving. I'm leaving Malaysia or wherever we are. I'm leaving there. I'm hopping on a plane. I let the assistant manager take over that match. I'm going to Gyokeres' house. I'm knocking on his front door. And I'm walking in the house and I'm sitting down and I'm telling him I'm not leaving until you fucking agree to sign for Manchester United because we need you. I'm locking the door. I ain't leaving his house till he agrees to sign for Manchester United. So Fox says, so Arsenal going to pay the 90 million asking price for Sesko? I don't think they will, because I don't think he'll go for 90 million. I think Leipzig are going very high. I kind of expect it maybe for 60, maybe 70, considering where they're starting at 90. Sesko's not a 90 million player. I don't know how they can possibly ask for that, especially with what's going on, with other fees in the market. I mean, Chelsea is signing a 30 million striker. Gyokeres, who you could say might go for 80, 90, or 100 million. I mean, 100 million on his buyout clause. He's going for 60. Osimhen isn't even that high either, around the same price as Gyokeres and stuff like that. So I don't understand how a player that's scoring 15 goals in the Bundesliga, and last season I think he scored like 13 goals in the Bundesliga. I don't understand how they can possibly believe that they're going to get 90 million for Sesko. I think Arsenal will end up paying less than that. Plus 50 million on Zubimendi. They already spent 140 million. Well, listen, this is what happens when your team is getting in the Champions League and performing well in the league. You can spend money, but when you're Manchester United and you finish 8th and then you finish 15th or 14th, you get stuck in really bad positions that make it even difficult to come back from the pits of hell, unfortunately. Rajat's here. Shout out Rajat. Says he won't come, dude. Well, we got to see. I'll be interested to see where he goes, because I mean the stories was United, Arsenal, Chelsea, and a little bit of Liverpool. So I mean, if Arsenal gets Sesko and Chelsea don't pursue him and they're cool with Delap, and then maybe they get somebody else as well, and I'll be interested to see where he actually ends up going, because it's, he was heavily linked to all the Premier League teams, and it seemed like he was going to make a move to one of them. And if Arsenal's off the table and Chelsea are off the table, I mean, we were the third that we were the most heavily linked. Of course, we've been linked with him since Amorim has basically come in. So I don't know. We got to see how it goes, and maybe we'll get an update on that. Lots of people asking for Fabrizio, so we'll see if he provides us something. Grace says, bring my boy Spudgate to Manchester now. No. Andresito09 says, that's tough. Look at the situation with Quenda. Amorim brought him up in Sporting, and Quenda still picked Chelsea, which is probably best for his career and development. Well, I mean, that is true, but also one of the things was like Quenda wanted to play winger, apparently. I mean, this was what they told us, so I don't know if it's 100% accurate, but they told us he wanted to play winger and he didn't want to play wing back. And I think if he came to Manchester United, it's probably not the only reason, but one of the reasons they said was, he wanted to play winger. And if he came to United for Amorim, I mean, he knew where he was going because of the formation. He was going to play wing back. So, Elias says, drop a like, subscribe, get in the Discord. He's just dropped the link to the Discord. If you want to get in our Discord, we got a great, fantastic Discord. Lots of chat in there, lots of news updates as well for offline stuff when we're not live. So I'm going to pin that real quick so it makes it easy. It's also in the channel description if you miss out. So yeah. But let's get to some of the news updates, the real news updates. Where do we start? Let's see. So, some of the things that have come out today. Apparently, today is the deadline that was given to Bruno Fernandes from Al Hilal, but we haven't gotten any updates. It was 11 hours ago. They were talking about this, and we haven't gotten an update about it. So, I don't know. I guess we got to see and wait until somebody reports it. people might say, that means that he's staying. I don't really know. I think maybe it could go either way. Um, if it's quiet, it's quiet. Doesn't mean that he's staying. Doesn't mean that he's going. So, we also had this other story that said United's director of football negotiations, Matt Hargreaves, was recently in Naples to hold a meeting with Napoli's sporting director, Giovanni Manna, and club president, Aurelio De Laurentiis. The main topic of discussion was surrounding the possibility of United signing Osimhen this summer, with the club now seriously interested. Well, I'll tell you what. If we end up getting Gyokeres or Osimhen, because Chelsea went to Delap, we owe Chelsea a huge thanks. I mean, Chelsea are doing us an absolute, in my opinion, Chelsea are doing us an absolute favor. They signed Jadon Sancho for 25 million, and nobody wants him. And they're giving us money for him, and we don't want him back. Nobody wants him back. So thank you for that. And they've taken the lap from us. And if it means that we end up with Osimhen or Gyokeres somehow, some way, I mean, they've done us an absolute giant favor, because it's not that I don't rate the lap, but I've always held the opinion, like many, that we need an experienced, ready to go top striker, and I think those two options is in Gyokeres and Victor Osimhen. So if we are forced down that route, then I'm happy for that. So hopefully that's what happens. Maybe we got some updates while we went live, so we'll get to that, because we're gonna go through all the news and we're gonna get to the most up-to-date news to this minute. So we did have another update that came that said Manchester United not giving up on potential transfer move for Espanyol goalkeeper Jean Garcia. Of course, many people want Onana out. They want him sold. They want a new goalkeeper. He's been one that's been linked quite good amount of times really recently. Some of the chat members have been talking about Jean Garcia for the past couple months. Only been really actually been more frequently linked with us in the past month or so. So they finished that off by saying the Red Devils are keen to make a change in goal this summer with Onana's future in doubt. Well, I don't know much about Jean Garcia, but I do know that we do need a new goalkeeper and that we do need to get rid of Onana. I don't think he's it, and I don't think he's going to become it. I think we've seen enough in 2 seasons. I think we see his problems and his faults, and I don't think that there's much that's really going to change in that aspect. So another goalkeeping thing coming from Ojogo, so kind of take it with a grain of salt. I mean, it's not really the most credible outlet. It's a Portuguese outlet. I'm familiar with it because of my Portuguese friends. But I said Manchester United are interested in Benfica's Antoli Trubin. He is a good goalkeeper. I know about him quite well. Apparently, the keeper is priced at £40 million. He is a good goalkeeper. He's a top goalkeeper, actually, especially for his age. And I think that would be a good move. But I don't know. This is one-off stories here that we're talking about now. So, Fox says, I don't see any concrete foreign destinations for Gyokeres, to be honest. Maybe PSG, Barca. I don't think Barca will be in for him, though. And I don't think PSG will either. So that's kind of what I'm saying. Like, he hasn't really been linked with anywhere else besides the Premier League, and it's always been the Premier League, and it's been quite heavily Premier League. So, I mean, people have the right to start thinking, what does this mean for Gyokeres? Maybe he's kind of forced into a situation where he goes, you know what? I want the Champions League, but I was thinking about going to Arsenal, but they haven't chosen me. And Chelsea aren't really that interested, and I would have maybe gone to them. But now it's kind of just like United and maybe some other club somewhere else. And if he wants to come to the Prem and he wants to play there, and unless another Prem team gets involved that has Champions League, if we could convince him that, hey, we're going to get back into Europe, like we did kind of to Pogba when we told him, yeah, we're not in Europe, but, 1 season out and we'll go back into Europe, something like that. I think it's a long shot. I think it's a real long shot, but I mean, right now, kind of anything is possible at the same time. So, Rajat believes he'll go to Barcelona. I mean, we'll see. I mean, they still have Lewandowski there, and they're looking to get Rashford, so I don't know how many options they're gonna have around there. But we'll see. Rashford wants Champions League football. Yep. Grace says, "Stop it, guys. Nobody watches Espanol." Um, Gray says, "If Eric says he's good, then run the other way." That's not true. That's not true. That's not true. My football knowledge is elite. Because when I tell you something, I tell you because I know. And when I don't know, I tell you I don't know. That's why. I'm on point. Box says Allegri just became new Milan manager, plus Gasparini has taken over Roma. And Andresito says Newcastle has UCL and money. They do, but they have Isaac. So I kind of feel like with Isaac there, I don't think they would go and get Gyokeres. I mean, they could, but I just feel like they won't. If Isaac ends up leaving, which I don't think he is, then maybe they would go get Gyokeres. But I mean, I haven't seen Gyokeres linked to Newcastle, so unless they decide to jump in, because I don't think they're in, and I don't think they have been in, and I don't think they're really looking at him. I think they're probably looking at some other areas, and they do have some money. I know they are the richest club in the world, but they actually can't spend all of that money because they don't have the market for it. So they don't have like sponsorship deals that are big enough to pull in the amount of money that they have. So actually, they're still a bit quite limited. Not that limited, but they're not. It's not like they have unlimited money. Like they actually do, but they can't use it. So, but we also had this other update since we just mentioned Barcelona and Rashford. This actually ties in nicely. It says Barcelona won a loan move for Marcus Rashford with an obligation to buy for 30 million plus 30 million euros plus add-ons. Manchester United want 40 million pounds. I mean, I hate when they do this. You know, they just told us the first part and said 30 million euros plus add-ons, and then they tell you the last bit in 40 million pounds. I mean, why isn't it just not all in pounds? We are in an English club, and we operate in pounds. And it's our player, and we're selling him. I hate when they do that. It's a pet peeve of mine. Because they do it to mess with people's heads. They do it to mess with people's heads. Because people look at 30 million euros and then they say 40 million pounds and they don't do the conversion and stuff like that. And it just like, you know, it's to mess with people's heads. I'm just going through some of the news. Yeah, so obviously early in the day, about 6 hours ago, you know, they said there was indications Chelsea. Well, this is how things change. I mean, Jacob Steinberg, however you pronounce his name, reported 6 hours ago that there are indications that Chelsea will not be taking up their £25 million option to turn Jadon Sancho's loan from Manchester United into a permanent deal. But we now know that that's not true because we got other updates. One of these updates said PSG have advanced strongly in the pursuit of Franco Mastentuano. So maybe he ends up going there. I mean, they have an absolutely fantastic football director of football. He's probably one of the best in the business, if he's not the best. And what he's doing there is transforming the team. I would love if we could have actually got Luis Campos. I think it would have helped immensely. You know, so I wish we did. 4 hours ago, there was a piece of news says talks between United executives and Napoli's sporting director Giovanni Manna are ongoing this week over Alejandro Garnacho's possible £50 million move to Italy. I mean, that's another player. He's definitely one that's gone. Apparently, and I don't know if this has been discredited or not, but there was a report the other day that Ruben apparently told Garnacho in front of the entire squad and said, "You better hope that somebody comes and buys you." You know, something to that effect. Basically telling him, you know, you're done here. And if you don't get somebody to come and buy you, you're pretty much screwed. So you better figure it out and get out. I don't know if that's been discredited. I mean, a lot of people are arguing that, that might have been fake or something like that. So, I mean, that's the world we live in because it's all hearsay. That's what we deal with. We just get reported what we get reported. And very hard to figure out what is true and what's not true. So, Muppeteers reported 4 hours ago Manchester United's plan now is to push for Brian Mbumo, hoping to convince him to join. So we do know that we apparently want 2 10s. He would be the other one. Cunha is the first one. But I think we should get the striker sorted first before we go and do that, Andresito says, yeah, Garna is at the tour. Yeah, he's at the tour. I think he's... I don't think it's anything... Again, I think maybe it's a little bit similar to maybe like the kind of the Sancho kind of saga between him and Ten Hag. When Sancho came back and he was there training and they pretended they made up and they were smiling and stuff, but it was just like, it was business, pretty much. It was business. It was like mandated. I kind of feel like maybe it's like that, maybe he did tell him that. I think he actually doesn't want him though. Whether he told him that or not, I think he wants him out. I think he's okay with selling him. So, yeah, I think it's just standard business. I mean, it's one thing to kind of say like, yeah, we're looking to sell this player. But I mean, if you took the entire squad and you left him home, that's just bad sort of optics for the transfer. So I think you kind of got to, let the rumors play out, take him along with the squad and stuff. It's kind of just a professional type of thing, I think they're just, he's getting paid a weekly wage. The entire club has gone over there in terms of the team. So I think it's just, I kind of think it's just standard procedure. I know, it might feel weird because we kind of tend to put ourselves in that position or something like that. And we're like, that was me. And the manager told me that I wouldn't go. You know what I mean? I mean, you get fined for sure, and you probably wouldn't get paid. But, I mean, he could have done so, but maybe, he's just being professional about it. And it's just there for the ride. I mean, it's 2 matches and then they get to, go away. And I'm sure we'll see more developments after that. So, but obviously, the news that was the concrete news that came from Sky said that Chelsea would like Jadon Sancho to stay if they can agree on contract terms which fit in with the wage structure at the club, which is what I talked about earlier in the show. And I think it'll probably happen. I mean, I know he's kind of an idiot. When I say idiot, I mean like a jackass. Like, I know he acts like a jackass sometimes, doing his stupid stuff on social media and the way he's acted, with things that happened at United. But I kind of just feel like, or at least I would hope, be like, well, it's probably the highest level of the club you're probably going to get, and you're already there. So, like, don't ask them for 250, 300,000 a week. Be reasonable. Go play your football. Go. Stay in London. Go play your football. Stay at Chelsea. I mean, they're in the Champions League. I don't know what other option he really has, because he's been at Chelsea the whole time. There's been no stories, really, that has said that any other team is really interested for Sancho. So he might not even have significant interest. And if he knows that, maybe he's more willing to, kind of not be so mercenary about it and ask for a crazy amount of money and kind of break down the negotiations and have him get sent to Manchester United. I don't even think he wants to, be anywhere near United. I don't think he wants to come back temporarily. I don't think he wants any of that as well. So, how can he make Nacho leave? How? I mean, you can make Nacho leave real easy. You just tell him you're not part of my plans and you're not going to play a lot next season. So you want to play, and Garnacho's not Casemiro. Garnacho's not on 350,000 a week. Garnacho's not at the end of his career. Garnacho's trying to solidify himself in the Argentinian squad, which he's been in and out of, and he's trying to advance himself. And also, Garnacho, I don't think is necessarily happy at the football club anyway. So if you're already not happy, the manager tells you, you know, I'm not really going to use you a lot. You're not going to play as much, or you're not going to be a starter. You're kind of just pushing him away. Even if you don't tell him directly, go find another club. You can still kind of push him towards the door, really. So, Andresito says, I agree. I think he wants him out, but Garnacho won't have an issue looking for a club. Well, yeah, I mean, he's a young guy, and yeah, I think he'll be all right. So, Rajat says, keep Nacho, let coach go. Well, maybe, but it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So, the reality we're in is that Amorim is staying and Garnacho is going to go. So, Boxa Sancho has cost us 150 million in fees and wages over 4 years and contributed 0. Yep. And he also just thinks, he's like God's gift or something, the way he acts. So, good riddance. Usually they tell you don't let the door hit your ass on the way out. In this situation, I would say please let the door hit the back of your head on the way out, because I don't really care. So, Grace says, read my joke. Grace says 11 Southeast Asians play a game of football. You know the rest. Well, yeah. I mean, not that it wasn't funny, but it just makes me sad. It just makes me sad, just makes me sad. I don't want to think about it. We shouldn't even be there. We shouldn't even be there. We shouldn't even be playing these games. We're pimping out the team for 8 million. It's a embarrassing situation. Honestly, it's an embarrassing situation. We just had the worst season ever. We go over to, Asia to go play 2 matches for 8 million because, we need the money, and we play an exhibition game. We can't even win that. And I don't even blame them, though, because it's not really about winning the exhibition game, because I just look at it and I'm like, the players don't want to be there, and Amorim doesn't want to be there. Nobody that's there really wants to be doing this at this moment in time. Not that they don't want to go to Asia and see the fans that are there, but they don't. The timing of it is absolutely shit. It's trash. It's literally garbage. Like, all they wanted to do was end the season and everybody go away and Amorim go do his work planning for next season and stuff like that, and let the hierarchy do their thing and get the transfers in, and let Amorim be there as well, and have a part in it. And the players wanted to just piss off and go take their mind off of United for a few weeks. And we sent them halfway across the world to go play 2 matches for 8 million pounds. They can't really be asked. I watched a little bit of it, and the only reason why I watched a little bit of it, and I think maybe probably everybody else, that everybody else will be watching a little bit of it, was literally for the kids. It was literally for the youth players. That was the only interest I had, was to just take a look at, a couple of the younger players, and maybe some of them just got, sort of a bigger opportunity than they've had in the past. But other than that, I don't want to watch this. I don't really care. I'm done with the season. I'm done. I don't want to watch United play until, the proper preseason starts before we start next season, and we see some of the new players in that we're going to get. So, Grace says, don't worry, we're playing Hong Kong tomorrow. We are back if we win. Well, yep, we're playing Hong Kong international team, so Gyokeres will be watching. Well, maybe. Although, I mean, I wouldn't expect him to. I mean, because we don't even want to watch. I don't know why he would be watching. Especially that. I I mean, it's really a nothing game, right? Jadon got a few goals. Yeah, that's fine. He could keep them at Chelsea. 12 goals for 150. Oh, you mean he's got a few goals at United? Yeah, I mean, no. I mean, Jadon Sancho is, in my opinion, he's one of the worst players we ever signed. Overhyped, overpriced, piss poor attitude, piss poor mentality. I can't stand footballers like that. I can't stand footballers like that. Especially after all the support we showed him, and then to do what he did with Eric Ten Hag, right or wrong, whether Ten Hag was lying or he wasn't lying, that's not how you conduct yourself. And I'm so glad I never have to see him wear a red kit ever again. I don't give a shit where he goes, and I don't care what he does. I don't care if he ends up winning the Premier League. I really don't care. It literally doesn't matter to me. They'll try and banter us for it. I don't care. I mean, he's an absolute shithead. So, um, you know, Grace says Eric Ten Hag. Hey, Anthony. Hey, bye. Hey, how much? Hey. Biggest flop I've ever seen at Manchester United. Yeah, considering the hype and considering, he was a baller, even though he was doing it in the Bundesliga. And again, I think we see many times people come from the Bundesliga and it doesn't necessarily translate to the Premier League. That's because I think the Bundesliga just it's not really a defensive league. It's a lot of end to end type of thing. It's actually very open. It's quickly paced, but it's a lot of just back and forth. It's a little bit like ping pong at times. So I think it's easier to score goals than it is in other leagues. And then they come to the Prem, which is the most physical and the most fastest. And it's probably more structured to a certain degree because there's a lot of teams that are quite good in shape and they're hard to break down. And they take the piss. They take the piss. So, one of the things, apparently, Onana, Delap, and I forgot who the other player was. Apparently, they went to India for a business trip. So I don't even know what they're doing there, but Onana spoke and said people called Amorim the worst manager, but he has his ideas and he will not change his style of play. We have to adapt his vision. And my thing to that would be, I don't know who at the football club is in charge of letting the players speak, but I feel like that person, we sacked like, I don't know how many people, 20,000 people or whatever, or more. Whoever's in charge of letting the players speak and choosing what players can speak and where they can speak, they probably need to be sacked because Andre Onana should not be allowed to speak. This guy makes some of the worst comments ever. Obviously, he has the infamous one versus Leon, and he's had some other ones before that. But I mean, what kind of fucking statement is that? What kind of quote is that? He said people called Amorim the worst manager, but he has his ideas. So like, it didn't defend Amorim in any type of way. Basically, he just kind of just left that out there, and then just kind of just said we have to adapt his vision. Like, you're not helping, Onana. You're not helping. Please stop speaking. You're not helping. You're making it worse. You're making it worse. Because I could only imagine what the comments in here are saying, and people are probably like, well, somebody's had to go at him, said, no, we call you the worst keeper. Well, actually, 2 people have said that. 3 people have said that. So, yeah. I mean, that's gone well for him. Andresito says, I do not agree with what Sancho or Garnacho did speaking out on the coach, but why does it seem that only United coaches throw their players under the bus? I don't see that in Madrid, Liverpool, Bayern. Well, I don't know. I mean, see, but for me, I don't feel like Ten Hag really threw him under the bus. I think he just gave, because for me, Ten Hag with Sancho, I mean, he was there supporting him, let him, go away for 3 months, came back, was giving him opportunities. And then, the relationship must have deteriorated. But I think he gave, I don't know if, the thing about Ten Hag is, I don't know if he was just giving an honest answer because he wanted to give an honest answer to the media. I don't know if he was doing it to try and maybe give Sancho a kick up his ass because he wanted to get him to come good because he wanted to use him and it wasn't really working and Sancho was slacking and he was trying to get him fired up and it backfired because Sancho, you know, handled it very poorly. But also the same thing, like, with Garnacho. I mean, Amorim, in my opinion, he's never thrown Garnacho under the bus. He's done some things, but I wouldn't consider it throwing under the bus because, these things happen. I mean, he dropped him out of the squad, but players get dropped out of squads all the time. And he bring him back in, and he worked with him. And when he did press conferences throughout the season from that point forward, he would say positive things about Garnacho. He'd say he has to work on more stuff, but he's, getting better and stuff like that. I remember watching a bunch of those. And because he gets dropped for the final because the manager makes a decision, he goes and speaks to the media in the way he did. I mean, that to me that's more on the player because it's like, but this is a part of football. This is what happens. Like, life isn't fair and football ain't fair either. Like, yeah, so what? You played 80% of the matches to get us to the final. The manager made a decision. He's the manager. If you're not happy about it, go fucking talk to him. Go to his office or go to him directly. Why are you going to the media to make a statement? Because you want to make a statement because you want to, stir the pot and mix things up and make a situation out of it. And also he was probably a little bit emotional. As well, as we know, he's quite a little bit more emotional than some other players, and when you're emotional, you don't really make good decisions. So, you know, yeah, I don't really think they kind of did that. Andresito says, "Cheers from New York City. Let's go Knicks." Yes, absolutely. Knicks playing tonight. Big game. We got to win or we're out. So we got no other choice. Let's go Knicks. Hopefully we do a job to at least stay alive until the next one. But yeah, I mean, it's gonna be a tough game. It's gonna be a tough game. So yeah. Gray says, does Rasmus Naldo shoot a front two to cover his weaknesses up? Maybe. 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 It might help. Could help. Could help. But I don't think we're gonna get that. I mean, most people. I mean, does any team really play two strikers anymore? I mean, that's the I'm sure there are some teams, but I mean, out of the big teams, most of them play 4-2-3s or something like that, or 4-2-3-1, or some to that degree. They all have about one striker. So, even if that is the case, that he shoots a front two, I mean, it's not really going to help because no team that's really winning things and competing at the highest level, nobody's playing with two strikers. So, I mean, it's not really going to get us to where we got to go. Would I take Januzaj back? No, he's like 33 now or something. And do I rate Phil Lindelof? No. Why would we take Januzaj back and Phil Lindelof? Phil Jones or Lindelof? I don't rate either of them. So bring back Tom Cleverley, says Grace. What about Igalo? Oh boy, now we're getting into crazy territory. Guys, hear me out, says Grace. What about Callum Wilson? Oh boy. Here we go. This is where we've ended up. This is where we are now. This is where we are. I mean, we might as well just go get Wesley Sneijder. We've been linked with him for about 17 years now. We'll get Lewis Nani out of retirement. We'll get Rooney back up top. Yeah. Fox says, hear me out, Calvin Lewin. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Absolutely no way. No way. Nobody cares about B-Tech Netball, Inter and Leipzig. Oh, yeah, okay, that's true. Inter do play too, up top. It's true. That's true. Works quite well for them. And then there's Leipzig, which I don't watch too much Leipzig, but fair play. Fair play, Grace. Fair play. Yeah, Inter works quite nicely for them. So, where is the rest of my news? Hold on, I gotta find this stuff. This is what happens when you don't have time to prepare for the show. So Eric Ten Hag's Bayern Leverkusen are discussing Anthony and Garnacho internally, apparently. This is coming via Kicker, via Bayer 04 Extra, which is obviously a Leverkusen aggregator or whatever. They have 6,000 followers on Twitter. Kicker has 46,000 followers, and I don't know what they are. There's some sort of a news outlet, but it's in German, so I can't read the description. I mean, go for it, Ten Hag. If you want to, redeem yourself, give us some money back from the signings. I mean, well, at least the one signing that you got us that absolutely flopped and we pissed away a bunch of money, even though I don't blame him for the money part, but I mean the player part himself obviously wasn't the right call. Because of his stubbornness, because I think somebody once upon a time in here made a good point that, and Hag benched Kudus. I don't know if it was for the final or whatever when he was at Ajax and Anthony played. So clearly he had a problem sort of with Kudus, and he liked Anthony very much. And obviously, I think looking at Anthony playing in the Prem and looking at Kudus playing in the Prem, and Anthony playing for us and Kudus playing for West Ham, I think it's quite clear to say that clearly we went and got the wrong player, because clearly Kudus has the better build and is the better player for the Prem, and Anthony isn't. So, yeah. Yeah, what's this? Dean Jones Soccer says there is a belief that United would be prepared to match Brian Mbumo's asking price if it meant getting ahead of their rivals in the queue, but significant outgoings are needed. I mean, I don't know what's going on at this football club. So, from reading things, I keep getting this thought in my head. So are they trying to tell us that we had only the money to do the Cunha deal, and now it's just sitting here kind of like we're already fucked, and we're not going to be able to really buy any more players till we sell a couple of them? Because, I mean, it just keeps going from bad to worse, doesn't it? If that's the case, I mean, we're not going to be able to be fast. We'll miss out on some targets, more targets, because other teams that they already operate better than us. They can move faster, and they have the money, and they have the status. Some of them, such as Champions League and stuff like that. This isn't gonna. I'm quite worried at this point, because if this transfer window is an absolute failure, I think Amorim has no chance. Next season will be another disaster for sure, and the following season will probably be disaster as well, because if next season is a disaster and we have to sack our manager and we have to get a new manager, I mean, I don't know who we'll get, but it's not ideal to sack two managers in 2 seasons in the middle of both seasons. And I think if we absolutely bomb this transfer window, I don't think Ruben really stands a chance, because I don't think those players, it just ain't good enough. And he's not going to turn water into wine. It's not going to happen. There's no manager that does that out there. There's some players you can work with, but all of them get transfers, and all of them get a few years, a couple transfer windows to transform and mold the team into what they need. You know, he's been here for 7 months and it's gone absolutely diabolically wrong. And now we're in a situation where it's like, yeah, we might not be able to get much of what we needed or much of what you need. And you're going to have to try and, you know, turn a Ford Fiesta into a, you know, a Lamborghini. And it's just never going to happen. It's just never going to happen in any way. So, Gray says Leipzig plays 4-2-2-2. Sesko and Openda. All right, they do. I couldn't think of that on the top of my head, but you're right. They do that. Yeah. They can have both, but I want 110 million. Says Box. I mean, yeah, around there, pretty much. I mean, if it was 50, 60 for Garnacho, and, you know, 40, I would even push for 50 for Anthony, considering how well he's done. I don't know. I mean, I don't think it's like the most credible thing, because I mean, it's just Dean Jones soccer. He's got soccer in his name, so I don't know how credible that is, because nobody else really reported it. But Onana goalkeeper kit 10% off. I mean, they should be giving that shit out for free, because I don't know. I don't know who's buying that. Who's buying that? You know what I mean? 10% off. They should be they should be giving them away for free. They should donate them to charity or something. They'd probably serve a better cause. I mean, those kits are probably just sitting there collecting dust on the shelf, somewhere in a box or some shit. There's no way anybody's buying an Onana kit, a goalkeeping kit. I mean, it's rare that people buy goalkeeping kits as it is. You know, I see somebody walking around outside with an Onana kit on, goalkeeping kit. I will judge them very, very hardly. Almost to the point that would make me want to go walk up to them and just ask them, you know, what's going on in your brain? And they'd be like, what do you mean? And I'd be like, you made the conscious decision to purchase that kit, and then not even to purchase it, because you could have left it at home. You know, maybe purchased it when we first signed him, but you're walking around with it now. And you could have just left it, you know, in the closet, and you decided to wear it out in public. Are you okay? You know. Grace says, I'm telling you now, Timo Pukki would do the job. Oh boy, Gracie. You give me anxiety with all these names. You give me anxiety. Amorim should tweak his system. Well, maybe he will. Box. Maybe he will. Maybe he will. I mean, we don't know. And he's already done a couple sort of surprises at some point. I mean, not to that, not there, but just in terms of like picking lineups and stuff like that. And maybe he will. Maybe he'll tweak it slightly. But this is why he needs the off season. Kind of think about these things, see what we're getting, see what the squad's looking like, and then be able to put a proper plan together and start working on that. You know, on the training ground and stuff like that, and hit the ground running with that sort of stuff. So, Ray says, would you be happy if we got Cunha, Gyokeres, and a goalkeeper, and that's it? Probably not, Grace, to be honest. I mean, I'd be happy about Cunha and Gyokeres. Like, I'd be happy and excited, and a goalkeeper. But my problem is that I just really don't rate a lot of this squad anymore. And I just think, and I've been saying ever since we lost the Europa League, that we need to change as much as possible. And if that's not possible for the club, then I think it's probably a mistake that we're sticking with Ruben, because I think it's quite clear and obvious that a lot of these players, they either aren't good enough or they can't do what you want. So they don't have the proper attitude or mentality, or, you know, they're not doing the right things behind the scenes, diet and training and stuff like that, or whatever it is. And if we just did Cunha, Gyokeres, and a goalkeeper, I'd be like, okay, that's good, but it would just feel like it's not enough. You know, the whole time I'd just be sitting there and be like, it's good that we got them 3 players, but I'm like, but this isn't enough. I'm like, you know, he's gonna go in with the same, pretty much almost the same squad, a little bit updated, and I don't know if that's enough um for him to be able to do well. Well, would I take Brandon Williams back? No, because he's in jail. No, or prison or whatever, or suspended prison, whatever he's got. Yeah, no. Definitely not. I mean, I didn't even like him when he was here because I didn't like his attitude and his mentality. Guy he played some matches for Solskjaer, started some matches, and he started acting like a prat on social media. Um, and in public and doing things, and he was acting like he already made it, and was like, dude, you didn't make it. Like, you just you just got to the, you know, the starting point of the race. You didn't even make it. And then I was happy that, you know, we let him go because it was like he's a waste of space. I do wish him all the best though in terms of staying out of trouble and being healthy and stuff. You know, come back from that. But Bach says you only get a goalkeeper if it was level of Schmeichel, Van de Sar, Buffon, now or Khan. I mean, I get a goalkeeper. I get a goalkeeper if it's a level above Onana. At this point, Gray says don't be greedy. I'm not being greedy. Um, you know, being greedy. Yeah, I'm not being greedy. I'm just being real. I just feel like it's a bit. It's not enough. It's not enough. The way I view this squad and how I feel when I look at these players, I would remove a shit ton of them, as much as possible. Now I know that might not be necessarily realistic or possible with our current situation, but that's just how I feel about them. I mean, there's certain points and opportunities that you have to kind of prove yourselves and not only prove yourselves but prove other people wrong. Uh, and when they go step by step and they blow it along the way each and every time, you know. And to me, the biggest one was the final. I mean, you had one job, was to go and win it. It's a one game, and they all turned up and they all played like shit. So, um, yeah, I don't, you know, I look at that squad and I'm like, well, if we're trying to, you know, if that story that Sir Jim said that, you know, they want Ruben to get a top 6 finish, and that's what he's going to be judged on. It, considering the way things have gone, I think, you know, I once upon a time said we need 5 players. After the final, I think we need 7 or 8, and I don't think we can get that, but I think that's what we need, for sure. Christian, if I say your name wrong, I apologize. I try my best. But Christian Ajom, I'll just say Christian because it's easier. But Christian says, despite the slow mo, I believe Manu will do real business and will definitely get in all their targets. Well, I mean, I hear you on what you kind of trying to say. But at the same time, Christian, I would say, well, we're already losing Delap, and apparently Delap was our number one target, from the club standpoint, from Jason Wilcox standpoint. Apparently he wanted that, so we've already missed out on one, and maybe we will get some, you know, a good amount of players, but maybe it'll take us some time because maybe, you know, we really have to sell. And maybe that's why there's sort of a mixed signal coming out from the people at the club, like Amorim and Wilcox. I mean, I'm and Omar. I'm sorry, not Wilcox. You know, I even seen Harry Maguire make a statement somewhere early in the day talking about, you know, this is Manchester United, it can't be like this, and you know, a lot of players will leave or something like that. And I was like, you know, how do you know that? Like, I'm like, you're just a player. How you know who's leaving? He said, he said something along the lines of a lot of people are gonna leave this football club or something. I'm like, how do you know that? I saw it and I was like, I hope you're right. I hope that does happen. I was like, don't get me excited, Harry. But yeah, I don't know. Um, if we, I'll say this: if we don't have any more money, besides, if we had Cunha money and we had 30 million that we could do for Delap, so right now we have 30 million, then I think it's going to be another transfer window where it's going to take some time. Because that just means that we literally have to rely on all sales to do anything. So our transfers is going to take quite a long time. And that's even if we can actually transfer them out. I mean, there's some players, you know, it could turn into a worry. Like there's Rashford with Barca. I think he's really holding out for that. How long that's going to take. And if they even actually pull the trigger to go for him. And then, Anthony's kind of in the air, but it's more positive around him because he's done well. And, there's more interest in him in that sort of plan. So, we'll see. Grace says, what if there is a plan to get rid of the most of the squad, but it takes 3 years? Well, Grace, I think it's a good question. To me, I would say they would have to do something absolutely. The only way I would see that kind of working, maybe in two ways. They would have to do it in a way, in my opinion, where they would have to do that with or without Ruben Amorim. So they would have to make sure that this gets done no matter what. And if they don't, then the only other way that I could see that work is that they would have to then keep Ruben regardless of what happens next season. And go from there. Which I don't know if they can, because I think that's quite crazy. Because if it's really bad and it's another horrible season and we're not in Europe and stuff like that, obviously all the fans are going to be calling for his head and he's going to lose all the support. And then as a board and a hierarchy, you have to literally, probably spit in the face of like 85% of your fan base or something like that. And we never really, it doesn't really tend to happen. I think, once the fans flip on the manager almost completely, it's not too much longer after that they usually all get sacked. So, if there is a plan to remove them, that's fine. I'll go with that plan. I can be patient if I know. Like, if they came to me and told me that there's a real plan and then they can show me, like, for argument's sake, they show me a glimpse into the future and they're like, look, by the third year, we've gotten rid of most of them. I can be patient. I'm okay with that. But the problem that I have is that I don't know if they'll be able to actually wait that long, because I think there's a lot of people that are not going to be that patient, and I don't even blame them for not being that patient. But because they didn't ask for this sort of thing to be happening at the football club, so I don't necessarily disagree with them. Lawrence Burry says, looks like we're doing all our business with Napoli this summer, and Tony Conte will be our savior. Rasmus packed off, Garna sold, and Osimhen thrown in. Well, we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Gray says, we are not sporting. It's going to take more than one season to make serious change. Yeah, we've argued this before, and I've always said that I understand how it's not gonna it's not going to take off like it did at Sporting because the circumstances at Sporting are different. It's, the league is different. The level in the league is different. I mean, regardless of if Sporting were bad or not, it was still the top 3 club in the Portuguese league. You know what I mean? So they're only sort of competing against 2 to 3 other teams, really, at the most. And obviously the Premier League is not like that. As we've seen, we ended up in, 15th, and that's because we weren't very good, but also the Premier League is highly, highly super competitive, and that's allowed to happen. You won't see a team like Sporting or Benfica or Porto go from first, second, or third and, end up in 12th one season. It's just never going to happen. So that part I get, but I just don't see the reason as to why they can't sell a bunch of players. Like, I just don't see what excuse they could possibly give other than we weren't able to do it. That they should, at the very least, they should be looking to sell as many as possible. But the messaging that's coming out from the football club, when Ruben's talking about FFP, he's talking about getting players in, but also selling players. And we have this is the sort of problem we have, because I think Sir Jim and Ineos are stuck between a rock and a hard place. Because Sir Jim is crazy about saving this money. And we've been making crazy cuts and all types of things. Penny pinching money left and right to try and fix the sort of, the losses that we have. Which I get that part. But when it comes to transfers and players, you can't really be like that. Now, part of me is like, this guy, I don't know if he necessarily understands that, of like how much weight that actually holds. Because I feel like there might be some players there, and it's almost a little bit Glazerish, where they're like, we can't really get rid of this player because we still owe this amount of money on him. And if we sell him for this price, then FFP. So now we're just stuck with them for another season. And that's not ideal. So I don't, it is a big, big problem in that sense. But at the basic level, my opinion is I would try to aim to get out as many players as I possibly could this summer. As many as I could. Like, if I want to get 15 out, for sure, I would aim for 20. And I would try as my hardest as possible. And if we finished with 8, then we finished with 8. But I wouldn't sit there and be like, well, it's going to take more than a year and it's tough. And, if we get out 7, it'll be okay. Because we'll end up getting out like 4 or 3. If you aim low, you finish low. So my sort of mentality about it is, I know it's going to take longer than that, but I would like to see the club at least trying to go in that direction. But at this moment in time, what we're getting, I know it's early and it didn't even really start, but the talk that's coming from Barada and Ruben doesn't sound like they're like, gas down full steam ahead to do that sort of thing. And they seem very, they're tiptoeing around the bushes around it and kind of being a little bit, they're being direct a little bit, but they're also being a little bit vague. Like, it's like, they're kind of like, walking on eggshells a bit. And that doesn't provide me confidence that they're like, in 110% ruthless mode, that they're going to do that sort of thing. So, Osimhen wants the monies. Well, we're giving Cunha 200,000 a week. So why can't you give Victor Osimhen 250,000 a week? You're giving Cunha 200,000 a week. Why can't you give Osimhen 250,000 a week if that's what he's asking for? That's the highest I would go. I wouldn't go any higher than that. No player should get 300,000. 250 or less. But Brighton Naambio says, how far about Jean Garcia goalkeeper? Well, I mean, we just got that one update that I said before about him. So it's one that's, the goalkeeping situation is one that's still, in my opinion, it's very I guess up in the air. It's not really concrete. Like, we know, I mean, we knew Cunha, and it was Cunha, and we knew that, and it seems like we want another number 10. That seems a lot, it seems strong, and we definitely know 110% United want and need a striker. So we know we're going to get some type of striker, somebody, somehow, some way. But the goalkeeping position is one that's like, it's very back and forth. You know, one day they say we're looking to do something in goalkeeper. The next day they tell you that Onana wants to stay, and United aren't really looking to move past him. Then the next day they tell you that United are looking to get rid of him. So my stance on it right now is, I don't know who we're going to necessarily get as goalkeeper. There's been a few names thrown around, like the Milinkovic guy, and Jean Garcia, and a couple other players. I think something will happen at goalkeeper. I just don't know what level. I don't know if it's going to be Onana leaving and we're going to get a direct number 1, or Onana ends up staying and Bienda goes and we get a number 2 that can really, actually take Onana's spot if he messes it up next season, and actually fully replaces him in that one fell swoop. So we'll see. Grace says, our business is going to Asia and getting 8 million to buy some new TVs that our fraud manager splashed up. Well, maybe that's why. Maybe that's why we did go to Asia. We need to get some new TVs. Ruben's probably broken a lot of TVs, but I don't blame him. I mean, I would break a lot of things too if I was the manager and I watched the team perform the way they do. So, Rashad, what are you saying? He does not look like that. He says it's only a joke. It's not serious. He does not look like that. Lawrence Berry says, it's because we make serious quarterly losses now. Yep, that's what I was kind of alluding to. But Sir Jim's gang also wants to build a new stadium, more like a psychedelic circus, big top than London's Millennium Dome. Yeah, I mean, that's another thing too. Like, it's, I mean, I would assume that, the funding would obviously come. I mean, you can get funding for a stadium in different ways than you can, I guess, sort of inject money into a football club, even though you can inject money into a football club. And I think many people say, and I've heard criticism of this, and I get it because I agree with it, and I would like them to do it. But many people are like, why isn't Sir Jim doing things to get more money into the football club? My answer is always that whether you like it or not, whether you agree with it or not, because again, he's done this for his, own personal reasons. He wanted to have a piece of Manchester United, and that's what he did. But for me, it's like, I kind of just look at it, I try to take sort of the feelings out of it, and I'm just like, well, if you own 28% of the football club, and the Glazers own the rest, and they've taken the club to this point where they've royally fucked all the finances, you've already paid them, and you've injected already, however hundreds of millions he's put in, 300, 400, and 500 million that he's extra that he put in after buying his 28%. And you sit there and you go, well, I own 28%. Why would I be, sending more money into the football club when I only own 28%? At the same time, I would say, but you could also just funnel that money through the businesses. I mean, there's no way you telling me we can't do an Ineos sponsorship. Spurs had Ineos sponsored on their seats. Why can't we do that shit and make a deal and overprice it just a little bit? Nothing crazy, but a little bit, just to add a little bit extra. And just do a sponsorship so we could have some extra money. I mean, he can do that. And they can do things like that. Other clubs have done that. I mean, Chelsea sold 2 hotels that they had. That's why they can spend all this money. And it's a way to get around FFP. I mean, they literally owned a hotel. They sold it, and they used all the money to go splurge it on transfers. So it's we can do it. They're just not doing it, and I think it's because again the problem that probably is the biggest issue is that Sejim is very businessman orientated and less football orientated, which is kind of very Glazerish because again it comes down to the point of money is still the number one focus. And I get that we can't have the football club, like Lawrence is saying. We can't have quarterly losses because, I mean, we've been having quarterly losses, and that's why we kind of are where we are to a certain extent, financially. We can't have that happen, and we got to fix that, and we got to correct it. But at the same time, they need to understand that, like, if you go cheap with the squad, and you go cheap with the team, it's not going to work. Like, whoever's there, Omar or somebody, I hope there's somebody, like, telling Sejim and making him understand that, like, I know we need to fix this shit because it's out of control and it's, not sustainable. But you have to understand that if we don't actually spend enough money and spend a good amount of money, it's only going to get worse because we're going to fall further behind and we're not going to be very good. So we need to spend money. He needs to understand that because if he tries to, my whole thing is if he tries to cheap out, right? If he tries to cheap out, then we have no chance. Like we have no shot whatsoever. Like this thing won't work out. Their project will fail. Amorim, it won't go well either. Even if they hire a replacement, it probably won't go well. You can't cheap out. You can't. You can't. You have to figure out how to do things. Temizgin says United want Osimhen, Turkey, Lopez, Semedo, Buemo, Simmons, Danny Munoz, Emi Martinez transfer to United is better for next season, please. Well, I don't think we're getting all those players though. Unfortunately, I would like to. Get that many players in. I think if we got that many players in, I would change some of them, to be honest. Temesgen, I would probably put in some other players, but if we got that amount of players, I'd be very happy. He is overrated. Move on from Osimhen. He's not that elite. Let's be cool. Oh, I think he's a top striker. I think his problem is his wages and stuff like that. Ray says, we lucky we will get 3 players. Yeah, but I mean, if that happens, then we might as well just not even participate next season. This is what I'm saying. If that's the case, if we're lucky to get 3 players, then, what are we doing with this manager? Why are they keeping him? Go and get some half shit manager that plays some half shit football that's going to get you points and build really nothing out of it. That might sustain you for a year or 2, but there's no future in it. And trying and get money in that point. But this is what I'm saying. I'm not in charge of the football club. I don't know what the fuck is going on back there. The point is, if you're keeping this guy, everybody in the world knows that we need to get players and we need to change a lot of things. If we can't do that, and that's not possible, and we're literally not going to be able to do that, then we probably shouldn't be keeping Ruben because it's not going to work. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of time. But I think also another place, even though Amorim said he wouldn't take the money, if we sacked him right now, we'd have to pay him. So maybe he would refuse it, and maybe we wouldn't. But I would tell him, fuck that. I would tell him to take the money, because honestly, they created this situation. So Lions is here. Lions, how are you? Yeah, I skipped Ray's comments, so I have to go back to that. Lions says, riddle me this. How is it possible that Chelsea steals another transfer out of our hands? Well, I mean, quite easy. I mean, number one, they're quite good at transfers and negotiations. They don't really lose transfer battles. They never have. They never really have. for a long period of time. I mean, not even against us, against other clubs. Once they're in for it, they usually get it done. Also, they have good amount of money, and they just won the Conference League, and they're in the Champions League. So, 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 equals 10. I don't even know if that was five twos, but hopefully. Lawrence Berry says Bruno, Mason, Casemiro, Luke, all on more than 250,000 a week. Well, yeah, I mean that, and that's another big issue. You know, I mean, not so much for Bruno. I mean, for Cass for sure, because it's like he's getting up there, and we keep him, and it's like we kind of got to make the transition from him. I mean, at this point, Casemiro should be a guy that should be on our bench, and coming on as, you know, a relief, you know, a relief player. He shouldn't really. We can't be relying on Casemiro to play. I mean, now we're gonna play less matches next season, but you know, still, maybe we'll play like 42, 45 matches, but regularly playing 50 to 60 matches a season. We can't be relying and going with Casemiro. You know, Casemiro's at a point where he should be a player that if we're not getting rid of, he's coming off the bench. The problem is if he's getting paid 300,000 a week, how do you keep a player like that on the bench? You know, it looks horrible. I mean, and it is horrible because you're paying a bench player 300,000 a week. And Luke Shaw is just absolutely useless. So, we might as well, you know, for Luke Shaw, we might as well at this point just tell Luke Shaw to stay home. Don't even like come in. And we'll just mail him, you know, his 250,000 check a week. And he doesn't have to come. I mean, because it's just like it's not going to go anywhere from that. So, Lawrence Berry says Chelsea could get Gyokeres as well. Well, we did say that in the beginning. That is a possibility. As well as Delap if Arsenal is serious about Sesko. We did talk about that early, and we said that, I mean, there is the possibility that Chelsea do that. They have the money for it. And Chelsea are sort of crazy like that in that way. I mean, not crazy in a bad way, but they it wouldn't necessarily surprise me if they do something like that. Let's just put it that way. And if Sesko goes to Arsenal, obviously that's done and dusted. No more strikers, so they're not gonna get both. They're not gonna get Gyokeres as well. And that's what I was kind of saying. Like, where does that really leave Gyokeres? Because I think it was pretty much between United, Arsenal, and Chelsea. More so, to a certain degree, United and Arsenal, with Chelsea kind of always just as an open option because Chelsea can do, you know, they could just do anything they wanted at any time. But I mean, if Chelsea don't go for him, or Chelsea maybe they go and get somebody else instead of Gyokeres, and Arsenal take Sesko, the only other option I really see is maybe Liverpool if they sell Nunez and they want to do that sort of thing. But then other than that, I'm like, oh, I don't know where he ends up in the Premier League. So, I mean, let's see if we get some updates at some point about that, and you know, we'll see how that goes. Fox says it's key that our men are negotiating outgoings, be productive, and offload these players. And this is what I'm saying. Like, it's, you know, one thing for me is like, it's one thing at the minimum. It's one thing to try and to attempt and try and then fail, but it's another thing for me to see them not even attempting, for them to not even like really be pushing for that, you know. Because then it's just like you didn't even, you know, you didn't even try, you didn't even attempt. Like, you clearly just like, you're not getting the picture here. You've you know, you're looking at it in a different way, and in my opinion, it just would feel like they've chosen the wrong thing to do. But you know, if they really make a push and it's really difficult and it doesn't work out the best, at the very least, I'd be like, well, look, at least they tried. I mean, you know, some people might say they ain't good enough, and I won't argue that, but at the very least, I could say, listen, at least they attempted to do it. We have a lot of problems at this football club. We're very broken. I understand that. So I could at least be like, listen, at least they attempted to do these things. They showed their intent. They showed their intention. And they showed their willingness and understanding. of the situation to go and try and do these things. But I mean, we just got to see how it unfolds, man. It's still very early, but it's already quite hot already. And does anybody know the dates? Because I've totally forgotten them. When does the window open? Does the window open actually next week and it's open for like 10 days and then it closes and then it reopens like 4 days later or something like that? Can somebody give me like the actual dates? Because I know they're doing something like that. I just can't remember. Lawrence Berry says some update tonight about Saudi club boss meeting Bruno's agent in their Hong Kong hotel. Well, let's see what comes out of that. Do you know where you saw that, Lawrence? Um, you know where you saw that? Line says Sunday, I think, for 10 days. Yeah, something like that. So it's gonna open this upcoming week. Um, there was a couple other updates that I'm just gonna jump around from one to one because oh yeah, did you see we got booed in Malaysia? I mean, somebody had to do it. The fans in Old Trafford, they didn't do it all season, which is quite miraculous to me. But, there's always that argument in the United fan base. Yeah, because we're not like that and we don't do that sort of thing. That's not us. It's never been us. And I get that and fair play. And, I'm not going to necessarily fight you on that one. But then also a part of me goes, yeah, but they've been absolutely garbage. Like they actually, well, what they've done, they actually do deserve it though. Like they really do. Now whether that would help or make a difference, or maybe it would make things worse, I don't know. I'm just saying, from what has gone on, I mean, they certainly do deserve to get booed. If it was another club, they would most definitely be getting booed every single match that they play. And maybe it would make them step their game up. Maybe it would make things worse. But, I ain't really even that mad about it. I find it, again, just another thing that's embarrassing. We go on a preseason, it's not even a preseason tour. We go on a 2-game tour to Asia. We play a match, we lose. And then also the people that came to see us, which are our fans in a different country, then also booed us. Because we're shit. So gamer people announced in the Red Devil United. Oh, okay. Gamer TV. All right. Well, fair play. I don't know what that is, but we'll see. I guess. I mean, if it's real, we'll get some more. Some of the journalists will report it. Andresito said, didn't they boo Xerxes at home? They did. I mean, they booed a player, but I think, especially at that point in the season, I think after it's gone really wrong, like, once it was like April or something, I mean, our fans just kept showing up and cheering and clapping, and we weren't winning any matches. We were literally losing, and we kept dropping lower, or falling further behind the teams above us. And I'm just like, I mean, fair play. I know our fan base is like that, and we used to take pride in that because we used to talk shit about Madrid, booing players like Ronaldo, who's done everything for the football club that he could possibly do, and they would still boo him and be like, yeah, we're never like that. But I mean, this situation is different. I'm like, dude, look at us. I mean, like, they actually do deserve, you can't perform like that and get clapped. It's some matches, it was like they were barely putting in the effort. So it was like, I don't know. It's like I don't have a psychology degree. We get like a psychologist and they could explain how that affects them mentally, because they might feel like, yeah, we don't deserve it, but how impactful is that actually compared to if they were just booed? If we just booed them for 3 matches straight, maybe some of them actually, step up to the penalty kick spot, metaphorically, and actually step up their game and actually start performing better, because maybe they wake up on the 3rd match and they're like, all right, I'm tired of getting fucking booed. So I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go make them cheer. You know, instead, where they're like, "Yeah, we love you," and they're like, "I don't deserve it, but thank you." But then they're just kind of like, "Well, I mean, we're not getting booed, so like, you know." I feel like it makes them more comfortable than they need to be. They shouldn't be that comfortable. They shouldn't be like they should be expecting to get booed, and then it should happen at some point. That way they know that like if I play like this again, I'm getting fucking booed. But after some point, when they're sitting there and they're looking at it and they're like, we suck. And everybody keeps cheering and clapping and singing songs for us. And yeah, it's cool for support. But at the same time, after some point, the brain starts going and it's just like, yeah, I mean, if we lose, like, they'll still clap for us. You become quite relaxed. And it's like, I don't know about all that. Fox says if we sell Bruno, and all the other targets we miss out or don't want to come, we will be in massive trouble next season. Yeah, maybe. But I think if you sell Bruno, you could probably get. I think from Bruno Fernandes, 100 million alone, you could probably sign 4 players by his sale. I think you could probably sign just 4 players. So, um, it would become a numbers game. I think at some point. So I would. My thing is you can't do that either. I mean, the point of selling Bruno is to bring in players, to bring in numbers. Um, obviously they have to be some type of quality, but to be able to bring in more players. I mean, if you just sell Bruno and you miss all the targets and you don't bring in a good amount of players, I mean, there was no point. I mean, might as well have just kept him and just failed with him here. And just brung in like 2-3 players and just failed that way. Um, Xerxes booed when we went out the FA Cup to Fulham. I mean, yeah, Xerxes got booed, but um, I'm talking about the whole team. I'm talking about the whole team. The whole team should be getting booed. Not just Joshua Xerxes. Especially when we got to April or May, the whole team should have probably been getting booed after every match. Um, or not after every match, but during the match or whatever, or after the match. I mean, they should have been getting booed like every single game because we literally didn't win a game and we weren't winning and we weren't playing good either. Like they should have been getting booed at some point. I think the Xerxes thing it was just unfair. And they tried to make up for it because they gave him, standing ovation next time and stuff like that. So, um, could get messy, says Box. Ray says few things we don't know how to see players, all the players leave with contracts expire. Yeah, but well, Ray, but that's because of the deals we've done in the past. I mean, you can't sell players. Um, this is why we always talk about recruitment, and you have to have good recruitment. That happens because we do poor recruiting and we give bad deals. Now, all of these players, except for the ones that Ineos got, they didn't make any of the deals. So all the deals are shit. The wages are too high. The player wasn't good enough. The player hasn't been doing good at Manchester United. They might be high in age as well. They might be quite old. So there's not really a lot of interest. So it's something that happens when you recruit bad players, and also on top of that, you give bad deals. Like the player gets a good deal, but it's a bad deal for the club because this is what happens. You get stuck with this player because nobody wants these players. So and they have to end up leaving on a free. It's just bad business by United because they've fucked up. They've overpaid for the player. We shouldn't even necessarily be getting these types of players because they aren't the correct players that we should be getting. So they're not going to work out. We never had a real plan in terms of building an actual squad. So we were just buying players like, you know, oh, we need a right winger. That guy plays right wing. Yeah, but like, what about his attitude, his mentality? What's his strengths? What's his weaknesses? Is he strong enough for the Prem? Is he fast enough? That doesn't matter. He plays right wing. You said we need a right winger, right? He plays right wing. You play right wing? Yeah, he plays right wing. All right, sign him up. We do things like that. So we end up in the situation that we end up in. Like, I mean, Casemiro was one. I mean, the money we gave him, and at his age, he's probably going to leave for free, because how do you get rid of somebody like that? You won't, because there's no other football club out there that's stupid enough to do such a deal. I mean, even Saudi Arabia, who have all the money in the world and can literally just, throw millions and millions at players and shit. I mean, even they don't want to do it, because it doesn't make sense. Like, why are you going to pay all that money for all those players? Selling Bruno won't fix anything, in my opinion. Very well, I think it will if we buy enough players and use it. If they sell Bruno for 100 million and they give us 60, and they allocate 40 to themselves, that's not going to work. They have to understand they got to not allocate any money from Bruno Fernandes and use the 100 million fully, and literally buy a whole squad. Bruno can be the Firmino. Bruno can be the who's the other player? Well, they also had Suarez. He could be like that. He could be. It is possible. I mean, if he gets you the money, you can do a bunch of deals with it. So, it might fix something, but it's got to be done right. It's got to be done right. It's got to be done right. I would get rid of. I would get rid of one. I would get rid of one player who's our best player. I would get rid of one player to get 5 very good team players. I would do it. We have nobody. Liverpool sold Coutinho, but already had Salah and Mane. We have nobody. Yeah, and that's kind of my point, Box, though. Like, we have nobody, and we need more. And us holding Bruno and having nobody ain't going to really do us much good. That's why I argue, if you sell that, but it's very specific. Like, if you sell Bruno, you have to be able to execute to get a certain amount of players with that. They have to be a certain quality, and they obviously have to fit. Otherwise, there's no point in selling Bruno. But but if you can do that, then I think it actually might help the team overall, because then maybe we can say, well, we have some players instead of none. Because you say we have nobody. I agree. I also say we have nobody. I kind of just look at it that, like, well, you can get rid of one very good player that's surrounded by nobody to a certain extent, and you can use that to get 4 or 5 players in, and you'll have a few somebodies, and then I guess maybe you make the argument, well, is a few somebody's going to be better than our best one player? For me, I would say yeah, because I look at football as a team sport, and I really do. I look at the team aspect very. I rank it very highly. I think to me, it's like number 1, number 2, most important thing in the entire game. It gets individualized quite heavily. I don't really agree with that sort of stuff. That's why I don't like the Ballon d'Or, kind of, because people are like, yeah, he scored 20 goals and had 15 assists, but he also won the World Cup, and he also won the Champions League, and he also won the league. I'm like, well, yeah, technically he won it, but he didn't fucking win it by himself. I mean, how many games, unless it was like Ronaldo or Messi, where they were literally scoring goals all the time and stuff like that in every single match, how many goals did they score every game? They also played with 10 other people on the pitch that also did their job to help you fucking get there. I mean, if it wasn't for them and it was just that person, they wouldn't have won the league, they wouldn't have won the Champions League, and they wouldn't have won the World Cup. So now these accolades that he won as a team, is now getting pushed into them, and so they should get the Ballon d'Or for that. Um, Ray says, or players that have fallout with the manager. Well, yeah, again, because when we go to buy players, and probably, the inside of the club isn't, I mean, it's not run great either, so that doesn't help. But, um, yeah, I think a big problem is we buy players and we don't check their mentality or attitude. Um, and it's been quite rotten inside as well. So it does happen to some of our youngsters as well. They get infected with it. So but at the end of the day, I mean, they have a fallout with the manager. I don't really blame the manager because at the end of the day, the manager is the manager. The club has let this sort of environment happen, and it needs to stop. So, uh, it is a disgrace to keep the likes of Xerxes, Hoyland, Mount before Bruno goes. I mean, maybe, but I would say it's like I get that because he's better than them. But my thing is that he's the only one that it's purely a financial thing. It's purely a financial and football type of thing. He's the only one that's going to get you 100 million. You know, he's the only one that's going to get you that sort of money. And I don't think they have plans to get rid of Xerxes. And if they get rid of Hoyland, they get rid of Hoyland. I don't think they have plans to get rid of Mount. So, um, it's pure. It's pure. Listen, if Bruno Fernandes was our best player, but they wanted to pay us 45 million, then like no, you know what I mean? No, but like, and if it wasn't Bruno Fernandes and it was another player, it didn't have to be Bruno. If it was another player and they want to offer us 100 million, I'd say sell them because it's not about the player. It's not about the individual. It's about the fact that we can take one player, sell him for 100 million, and we can probably buy 4 or 5 players out of that with amortization, which we don't have that option right now because we probably have to sell to get 100 million. We got to sell at least a couple of them. At the very least, we could just do it one shot with one big player and kind of just rebuild the team. Because we're not. Again, I mean, he's here, and we have nobody, and we're already not doing good. So for me, it's like, well, if we can't really add and we can't really build, then I also make the argument that there's really no point in having somebody like Bruno because all we actually are is pretty much almost a one-man team. And if you're a one-man team, then we're literally nothing. We're not going to go anywhere. We can't be good as a one-man team. So if you can't add, and that's what I'm trying to say, if you can't get the numbers and you can't add to the squad while keeping Bruno Fernandes, then you have to sell Bruno Fernandes. For me, it's just, it's just the way it is. Lawrence Burry says we are a cup team now. Worse than that. Victims of 2 decades of incredible success. We saw 2 decades in the wilderness before, after all the success in the 1950s and 60s, relegated in 72 on top of that. Well, I'm hoping that this season was our 1972 season. It's kind of what I'm hoping. Because essentially what we did was pretty much relegation, in my opinion. I don't think we can actually get relegated. Not at this point. I mean, we would probably have to do maybe another 2, 3 seasons, not in Europe at all, and completely just like lose all the money and lose all the power and and just end up with like basically no good players at all. Whoever's good leaves us and we can't get anybody in, and then we're really probably at a place where we could actually get relegated. But I think even the fact that, our players aren't that good, they're still a certain level good. They're not Southampton shit. You know what I mean? So, Buck says, Rashford 45 million, Anthony 40 million, Hoyland 35 million, Sancho 25 million. That's 145 million right there. We have a 100 million budget anyway. So that's 245 million. Yeah. But we could have 345 million. And also, I'm just playing devil advocates, but also, I mean, to get that 145 million, how long is that going to take us to get? Because there's an offer for Bruno right now, and if it's accepted, we'll have the money by the next day. Whereas to get rid of all those guys, I mean, besides Sancho, because it seems like that's the one that's going to happen the fastest, which is 25 million out of the 145 million. How long is it going to take for Rashford? How long is it going to take for Anthony? How long is it going to take for Rasmus? How long is it going to take us to sell all those players? Because we also have to figure out how to move fast, so we don't miss out. I mean, we're already at a disadvantage in terms of that. We don't look hot. We don't look the greatest prospect. You know, we still try to say, but we're Manchester United, and people care less about that now. We're not in Champions League, so we don't have that to offer. And we just had our worst season ever, so we don't look great in any way. So it's a problem too, because the longer we take, we might miss out on even more targets. We might miss out on some because we don't have any of those stuff to offer. But also, if we take even longer and we have to wait to get the money in, we might miss other players as well. So we could just be digging ourselves into a deeper hole there. Steph's here. Says, big up Eric, big up yourself. Steph says 19 likes and 32 watching. Let's get those likes up. Smash that like button and please help the channel grow. Get the channel pushed out there. Shout out to all the new people watching. If you want, get involved in the chat. Everybody has a say here. You're welcome to have give your opinion. We want to hear from you. We love new chatters and new members as well. We're trying to get to we're at 2,990. Let's see if we can make it to 3,000. That is our goal. We're trying to get to 3,000 subscribers as well. So if you subscribed, thank you. Appreciate that very much. And if you didn't and you want to help us out there as well, then get to it, and we greatly appreciate it. But Box said Alvaro Fernandez will give us 15 million. McTominay gives us 5 million. Bender 7.5 million. For Malacia, Bender 7.5 million. Malacia 7.5 million. That's 280 million. No, I mean, listen, you're making a good point. You're making a good point. And this is what I'm trying to say, though. Well, okay, those players are already out. But I mean, is that what's going to happen? I mean, probably my thing for that box is how long is that going to take us to get all that money? Because I just think that that's a big issue in terms of speed. Because if we sat here till mid-July and we're trying to get rid of, if Rashford's still here, maybe Anthony is fucking still here, and we got to wait. Hopefully the Alvaro thing happens soon. I saw that it was supposed to. And the McTominay, obviously that 5 million's coming. We still have to sell Bender. I don't know what's happening with Malacia. The Malacia loan, is that one that they're paying for? Or is he coming back and we have to sell him? Or does he already have the fee ready to go? You're correct. Box says you're correct, Eric. It's about getting money for these players. Yeah, I mean, that's what I've been saying. Like, they need to get rid of a bunch of these players. You know what I mean? They got to get rid of a bunch of them. I'm fine with that. But this is why United are in a very shitty and tricky situation. And I've always said, I like Bruno Fernandes very much. I think he's a very good player. I think he's our best player. I think he's our best signing post Sir Alex Ferguson. And he's definitely been our most impactful. But after the Spurs loss, knowing how the situation was changing, I think before, I was kind of saying, like, I would consider it. I would consider it. Because 100 million is a lot for one player that's age 31. Yes, he's very good, but he's also 31. And, and I was like, well, I would definitely give it a thought. And I would I would maybe probably cash in on it. But now it's like I kind of just feel like where the club is, it just feels like if that thing is actually there, I just feel like it would be irresponsible for them not to take it, considering the situation the whole team is in. Um, Lawrencebury says majority of fans wanted the Bruno sale. Others were a bit unrealistic about securing 5 quality players this window without that sale. I mean, that's what I asked for. I said we need 5 signings, and that was before Spurs. I said we need 7 now, just because we look so bad. Um, so, I mean, I think if we got the Champions League, we would have had money to do 5 quality players without the Bruno sale and just selling, whatever these other guys got, because we would have had more time. We could have had more money in our hands, so that means we could have went along the process, got a couple players in the meantime. Maybe we sell one by one, so we're kind of spending and spending and getting money in at the same time, so it kind of just keeps the cash flow going. But I feel like right now it's just like there is no cash flow anymore. So it's like you have 2 options really. You can do everything that Box is saying, right? Which is should still be the plan. Even if we sell Bruno, they should definitely still all of that should still come into play. You'll just have more money, but it could take you more time. It could take you way more time, and you might miss out on more players than we're already missing out on, because we might miss out on some solely because we don't have Champions League or solely because we're not that attractive. There'll be other players out there that we might consider backup options for some of those guys that we'll miss. And now we might miss them because we don't got the money. So we can't actually put in a bid. And if somebody else goes for them and they don't want to be sitting around waiting for a month and a half for United to figure out how they're going to get money for you, and they decide to go to that football club, well, now we've missed out on that player, not because they didn't want to come to us, but because we just don't have the funds in our hands at that time. It feels a little bit like Elise. Although maybe, Elise was always going to go to Bayern Munich, but that Elise transfer always felt like that to me. Like, we were interested in him. I think he was sort of interested in us, but I don't think we were like readily available to do the deal. And Bayern just came in and they were like, here's the cash. We already agreed it. You want to come to us? And he's like, yeah. And he just left, Sambu says they need to sign Vlahovic. I don't know about Vlahovic, to be quite honest. I mean, I take it like worst comes to worst, I guess. I mean, he's not really my ideal type of guy, but I'd rather get Vlahovic than get like nobody or whatever. Some low tier, like, it's better than like an Agalo or like a Weghorst for sure. And I guess beggars can't be choosers either. We say that a lot. So this is not one that I preference. I would probably try to go for 1 or 2, maybe 3 other players before going to Vlahovic. But that's just how I feel. So Box says that's my fear, that we sell Bruno and get the money and neglect to offload the deadwood because we have money. All the top targets will miss out, so money burns a hole in our pocket. Yeah, I mean, I get that, and I understand that, and I could that would obviously be an absolutely huge problem, Box. I don't feel worried about it. Maybe I'm being naive because I'm not. I'm thinking of what I would do. You know what I mean? I'm thinking of how I would do it. So maybe I'm not like considering it from how they're operating or their standpoint, and maybe their incompetence. And it's a good point because I mean, if they do that, that's absolutely and utterly disaster. You know what I mean? I'm just saying it from me, like the way I'm saying it. If I was there, that's how I would do it, and that's how I would move, and I would make sure that your concern, your fear, I would make sure that doesn't happen. Because what I'm saying is, for it to work, your fear can't come true. Because otherwise, then it still doesn't make sense. So, like, for me, in two ways, if we do what you said, Box, and we sell Bruno and we get the money, and we neglect to offload Deadwood because we have money, which I feel like, hopefully, since they love money so much, they won't neglect Deadwood because they want more money. Or all the top targets will miss out, so money burns a hole in our pocket. Even if we miss out the top targets, we still need to be getting B and C because we're not at a point anymore. I think also, Box, at the same time, we're not at a point anymore where we can just be like, oh, we missed out on A, so we'll just kind of just chill until maybe another A comes along. You know, we're like at C right now in terms of what we have. We're in like C or D. We need like, you know, C plus, B plus if we can get it. Like, we might not get A, we might not get A plus or A minus, but if you could get me a B plus at this current moment in time without spending crazy money, you spend reasonable money, but we got to spend money somewhere. We got to build the squad out. So, you know, if we miss out on Gyokeres, Delap, Sesko, David, Osimhen, Wirtz, but Wirtz is gone for sure. Turkey, Bumo, Ederson, Jashar, Stiller, Jashari, Stiller, Nori, Frimpong. Well, Frimpong is gone for sure. Kirkez, Ta's gone as well. Inacio, Garcia, Meston Tawano, Hoyson, and Napan, etc. Well, but yeah, I mean, you know, we might have to live with that little bit of a reality, but also, I mean, and you make a fair point. I'm not arguing against you. My whole thing would be, I mean, but part of their job, like especially Jason Wilcox, is that, you know, if we don't get those certain players in those positions, there's got to be a plan to get a player that at least somehow would improve the team and would add something to the team. It might not be the best option out there, and it might not be the most impactful, but from where we are, there's got to be something that you can do, a player you can go get, a player that might be a little bit under the radar, that actually fits the system quite well and has some ability. But this is why you need the football club operating properly in the first place. I mean, if these guys aren't good at their job, or they're not doing a very good job, this is why we're screwed, Box, because we've been run very poorly. We're in this position we're in now, and now we're at a critical point where there is no room for mistakes, and we're at a disadvantage. So you better be like, they better be smart, thinking outside of the box, maneuvering, and making some, you know, maybe some deals where people didn't see it happening, where people, it wasn't really on their radar, where people might actually question and be like, you know, I don't like that deal, or I don't think that's a good transfer or whatever, but it's actually one that ends up coming out good because you're a professional and you did your job and you got it right. But if we can't do any of that, I think we're pretty much then just screwed anyway, you know? Either way we go about it, there's a good possibility and a good chance that we're just absolutely screwed. So, you know, it's so difficult. I mean, I'm gonna be quite honest. I mean, you know, it's sad that we have to sit here, right? It's I enjoy it. I enjoy the conversation stuff, but as a Manchester United fan, I think it's sad that we have to sit here and take like an hour to 2 hours or 3 hours out of our day to have a full conversation about how our football club is operating. Like, you know, I feel like me and Box are, I feel like I'm the technical director, or, you know, and he's, you know, like the CEO or some shit, or the other way around. Like, we're sitting here trying to like basically do their job for them to figure out how the hell we're gonna actually be able to get something. I think it's quite sad because I think, you know, for example, and everybody, you know, I know there are rivals and we hate them, but like at Liverpool, I don't I don't think the fans aren't having these sorts of discussions every single day for the past, like, fucking 10 years. Like, they have transfer targets, but they're not going in this depth talking about money, trying to analyze the budget, counting players and shit like this. And they're like, well, if we do this and do that and this and this and that, and then, we take that and put it over here. We're doing math equations. We're doing physics equations. We're literally trying to do rocket science for no reason when we're fans, and we should be enjoying, like, being linked to players and kind of been like, yeah, I like that player and I like, but you go on like every United channel and every day it's like they're talking about finances, they're talking about how to do the job and what's required and what's going on behind the scenes and stuff like that. It sucks, dude. It really does. Like, we shouldn't really have to actually be doing this sorts of things. I see lots of new people getting in there. I will get to you. Sambu says they follow 100 players and only buy 2 or 3. We do. We have a lot of scouts all over the world. They've argued too many. I don't know if we cut down on those yet. But maybe we should, because maybe it's too much information. So, Sadiq Rahman says, sign Gyokeres ASAP. Hi, my friend. Hello. How are you doing? I hope you're doing good. I agree with you. I like Gyokeres very much. I think he's #1 target for sure. He's been my #1 target. I think he is probably one of the elite choices out there, if not the elite choice. And if I was in charge, I would be doing everything I possibly could to try and, at the very least, convince him. Because I think he's that important. I think he's that good that, some people might say it's a waste of time because he clearly doesn't want to come because of Champions League. But it's like, sometimes you have to be a little bit persistent. Sometimes you need to sort of, force the door open, because sometimes the door is shut, closed, and maybe it's locked. Maybe sometimes you just got to you got to just kick the door in, man, and open the door so you can walk through it, or at least try, And if you can't kick the door down, then at least you can walk away and say, you know what, I tried, it didn't work, but I tried. Because sometimes, I don't know if anybody's ever been in this situation, but sometimes you want something, whether it's at work or whatever, maybe it's a girl or something, and you try in the beginning initially, and sometimes people like to test you, and maybe you just sort of give up after the first initial denial, because you're like, that's it, it's over. They don't want me. They don't want me, or they don't want to give me that promotion. So might as well just not ask again. Might as well just not really try. I did it once and I got shut down for it. So, what's the point in, continuing? And sometimes, maybe that is the truth. And, even if you do try and try again, you're still going to keep getting denied, and that happens. But sometimes, when you go to do it the second or third time, actually you get accepted, so I think they should be trying at the very least. Johnny Hill says the fact Osimhen doesn't care about the Champions League like that makes me think we will somehow get him. Well, maybe I think this is the thing, we have issues all over the place. I think Gyokeres would have been very willing to come to us if we were in the Champions League. I think it's obviously, everybody knows it's quite the opposite now. We still sort of have maybe a hope with the sort of a Ruben Amorim type of link or something like that. I think it's a far shot, but maybe, possibly, maybe if some of the options that he thought he had on the table, like Arsenal and maybe Chelsea and stuff, if they start getting pulled off the table, maybe that might help us as well. But with Osimhen, yeah, it's cool, the Champions League thing. I think, but then the other issue that comes into play is that, there is Saudi Arabia there, and they can offer him way more money than we can. And if he doesn't care about Champions League, well, then he has no problem going to Saudi Arabia, because, they're not in the Champions League. They don't have Champions League. And if he doesn't care about Champions League, well, then, what does he care about? To me, it's probably just money, I guess, and a decent club to play at. But, you know, we can't offer him. I mean, Saudi could give him 600,000 a week. We're gonna come in and be like, dude, we really need you, and we really like you, and we think you're really good, but like, we can only give you 200,000 a week. And he's like, well, first of all, I want more than that. I want 250,000 or whatever, or 275, whatever it is. And he's like, and on top of that, I mean, I got people in Saudi Arabia that are willing to pay me, 700,000 a week. Um, so yeah, it happens. Mr. B says Gyokeres wants UCL mate. Yeah, um, I know that. That's what they reported. But if he wants, let's put it this way: if he wants UCL, and clubs that are in the UCL are either already have a striker, or not looking for a striker, or just don't want him because maybe they want a different striker. What does he do about that? Does he just stay at Sporting because they're in the UCL? Because it depends where he wants. It depends what kind of club he wants to go to and what level. Because maybe you can. I don't think he'll. I mean, maybe he ends up at Barca, but he's not going to go to Madrid. I don't know about Barca. If Chelsea don't go for him, then Chelsea's off the table. Arsenal, if they get Sesko, they're off the table. I don't know what Liverpool is doing. If they sell Nunez and they go for a striker, then maybe they go and get him. But if they don't, I mean, what club is he going to that plays Champions League? Because now you're talking about a team that's not as in stature as maybe some of these other teams. So I don't know. Johnny says if we don't get Gyokeres or Osimhen, it would have to then be Mateta for me. It's kind of what I'm thinking. I mean, a lot of people are leaning towards Mateta. A lot of people are leaning towards Mateta now. A lot of people are saying that online. I've been seeing that. A lot of comments from United fans talking about Mateta. I mean, it's going to cost us more than the 30 million for Delap, but I think it would probably be a safer option in terms of some of these other players out there. I don't really know. They have sort of less experience, or they're not really hitting the highs out there, which worries me a bit. So, Mateta, Premier League proven player, get him for a decently good fee. It's more than we were gonna pay, but I don't know, around there. Lawrence Burry says this club is just one long melodrama. I can see why there's a YouTube cottage industry around Man U 10 times more than anyone else. Also, those Europa knockout matches were melodramas too. Well, many people have said that they believe that we are some sort of a social experiment, produced by the powers at be to study human beings. It certainly feels like that sometimes, for sure. I don't know. I feel like that would be quite crazy if that was real. But the truth is, they do say the truth is more crazy than the lie. So, I mean, that would be insane if that was ever confirmed that our whole club was a front for it was just one big operation for just to do tests on people and see how they react and stuff like that. But it definitely feels like that sometimes because of the shit that goes on and has gone on. And then will probably continue to go on as well. So yeah, it's it's definitely I keep thinking about this. I don't really know. Because I would have to go search through the history, but do you think we're at the moment where we're considered the biggest fall off in history of sports? Are we currently the biggest fall off in history of all sports? Because, like, for what we used to do and for what we are now and the manner in which people speak to us, you know what I hate the most? You know what I hate the most? The most thing that I hate. You know, I could take not winning a Premier League trophy, but what I hate the most is fans, rival fans of other teams, and they come in, and it's not even banter. Like, it's not even like they're trying to like make jokes. They just like, they always just say, "Oh, how the mighty have fallen, how the mighty have fallen." I'm like, dude, you're not even mighty yourself. You know, I'm like, your club's not even mighty itself. Like, you know, who are you to say that? But it pisses me off when they say that shit. Pisses me off because one, I can't argue it. Besides saying, well, we have 20 Premier League trophies and we have 20 league titles and stuff like that, but then you can only say so much of that. But you can't really fly back at them. And it pisses me off. Because I'm like, can my football club please wake up and do something so I can fucking actually say something back and defend you? But like, I can't defend you because you're not doing anything. But it pisses me off when they say that. It really gets under my skin when they say that because I just hate that statement anyway. It's the way they say it. You know, they say it in a way like their club is like, they say it with disdain for us, but they say it in a way like their club is like holier than thou or something. And it's like, dude, just be quiet. Like, shit happens, bro. You know, where were you for 20 years when we were winning everything? You know, how mighty were you and what were you doing? You know, just, you know, stay humble, eh? Stay humble, I would tell him. Lawrence Burry says lots of successful clubs have sunk and sunk down leagues in English football as if centuries were between them and us. Not decades, since Blackpool, Preston, Blackburn, and Wimbledon were big names. Well, that I know that. I know that sort of stuff does happen in, like, you know, franchises. Well, the American term is franchises, you know, or sports teams or clubs. You know, I do know that they go from quite numerous examples where they used to be like the best of the best, and now they might be like the worst of the worst, or they cease to exist. I get that, but what I want to know is the fall from grace that we've had from what we were doing to what we are right now and what we've just done. Is it, because to me, I can't think of another example of a team that was like as good as we were for as long as we were, and then have this sort of period of run that we're on now, and we don't know when it's going to end. So it could still continue to go on for the next 10 years or so. And it's the way people, like, everybody talks about it. It doesn't matter if you watch Bundesliga. It doesn't matter if you watch Serie A. It doesn't matter if you watch La Liga, you know, and you only watch those leagues. The manner in which you bring up Manchester United, everybody has they all say the same thing. They all say, you know, it's crazy how far you guys have fallen. Like, and they don't even necessarily like our football club. You know, some of them hate us, and they still say that. And then it always makes me feel like I'm like, oh, have we had like one of the biggest downfalls ever in sports history? Is it that actually that big, or has there been things that have been much, much worse? But definitely the biggest in, I guess, modern time for the people that are alive nowadays. Because I can't think of a story of, like, you know, it doesn't even have to be football. It could be American football, baseball, basketball, you know, just any sport in general, where there was a team that dominated the way we did for the amount of time that we did, and then has become what we are now. I always constantly think that. I might have to ask the AI later. I might have to ask the AI later and see what it tells me. Um, I could try and ask the AI now. Actually, that would probably be good content to ask. Let me see. Is Manchester United's um recent? Oh, I don't know what I did. I don't know how to spell, and I'm hitting all types of buttons as well. Close this. Recent. By the way, if you smash the like button, thank you very much. We appreciate that. I don't know what we're up to. But we also have the Discord. We have a Discord. It's a fantastic Discord. Lots of channels in there. A lot of United stuff, but we also have some other stuff in there as well. We got some wrestling stuff in there. We got a channel called the Randomonium, which is just random topic stuff, which is lots of fun. And yeah, it's a good place because we keep you updated with the transfers. So whenever news breaks, which is usually most people follow it on Twitter, when the news breaks from the aggregators and stuff like that, we do post that stuff into the Discord, so you do get stayed up to date. Plus, you get to chat and meet and chill with cool people in the Discord and have good football discussions throughout the days. So if you want, you can just click that link and it'll auto join you as a member, and we'll chat in there later. It's also the best way to stay up to date for when we go live because I make all the announcements for the live shows in there. So is Manchester United recent downfall the biggest in sports history? Let's see what it says. But in the meantime, Lawrence says after 80s, Liverpool had a 15-year slump until Champions League trophy, then another 15 years wait. They were massively overshadowed by United, Arsenal, and Chelsea in those periods. Yes, I know that. And that is a good point. And I don't think it's necessarily. I think what I'm aiming for more is not necessarily maybe the length of time, but in like the manner in which we've gone. Because I know Liverpool went like MIA, like you said, after the 80s, but then, another 15-year wait after that. But they were always sort of, hung around there. I mean, Liverpool never finished 15th place. So I just feel like, have we hit the lowest ever of the lowest at this point? Bavish Corbin says watching from, I'm bad at stuff. Mauritius, Indian Ocean. Well, welcome. Glad to have you here. Glad you could join us. So I asked the AI, is Manchester United's recent downfall the biggest in sports history? And it said Manchester United's recent downturn, particularly their 24-25 Premier League season, has been historically poor for a club of their stature, finishing 16th. That's not accurate. We didn't finish 16th. And we didn't finish with less than 40 points, so this thing didn't update. But no trophies and exclusion from European competition marks their worst campaign in over a century since relegation in the 1921-22 season. We were relegated then as well. The decline since Sir Alex Ferguson's retirement in 2013 without a Premier League title, multiple managerial fails, and over £1.43 billion spent on underperforming players has been stark. However, calling it the biggest downfall in sports history requires broader context. Here are some comparable cases across sports. AC Milan, 1980s to the 1990s, once a European powerhouse, Milan faced financial turmoil and relegated to Serie B in 1980 due to a betting scandal, and again in 1982 for poor performance. The decline from seven European Cups to second-tier football was a massive fall. Though they recovered by the late 1980s, unlike United, Milan's drop included actual relegation, arguably a steeper fall. Well, we were relegated in the 70s, and we would have been relegated if it wasn't for the money we had this season. But their shit lasted less than 10 years. They got relegated in 1980 and they recovered by late 1980s, so they didn't even do 10 years of it. The other one is New York Yankees baseball, 1965 to 1975, another 10-year period. After dominating MLB with 20 World Series titles by 1964, the Yankees endured a 11-year playoff drought, finishing as low as 10th in their league for a franchise synonymous with success. This was a shocking decline, driven by aging stars and poor management. Sounds a little bit familiar, though not as sustained as United's current slump. The AI is not helping him when it does shit like that. Chicago Blackhawks, 1997 to 2007. The Blackhawks, an NHL Original Six team, missed the playoffs for 9 straight years. A far cry from their Stanley Cup dominance, financial mismanagement, and fan alienation led to rock-bottom attendance, but their recovery post-2007 with 3 cups was swift compared to United's ongoing struggles. And the Brazil national football team, from 1950 to 1966, and then post-2014. Brazil's 1950 loss to Uruguay at home was a national trauma, followed by a 12-year World Cup drought until 1958. More recently, their 7-1 World Cup semifinal loss to Germany in 2014 and failure to win major titles since 2002, except 2019 Copa America, marks a significant decline for a 5-time world champion. United's case stands out due to their global brand, and that's kind of what I'm trying to say. Valued, their fall to 16th in a hyper-competitive Premier League where mid-table clubs like West Ham and Villa now boast talent once reserved for Europe's elite is exacerbated by the league's financial parity. Sounds about right. Verdict: Manchester United's recent downfall is among the most significant in sports history for a club of their stature, but it's not definitely the biggest. AC Milan's relegations and the Yankees' 1960s-70s slump are comparable in scale. Well, all right, AI. I mean, thanks for trying to make me feel a little bit better, but Lauren says the problem may be that the Glazers' sons want their British franchise in a Super Bowl type framework, hence the European Super League plan. Well, probably. I mean, they're the ones that probably spearheaded that shit. You know what I mean? They probably spearheaded that shit. Sorry, I was just reading something. All right, let me just see if we got any other updates before we end the show today, because it's been a really fantastic show. We're almost at 1,000 views, and that's really good. And I don't know how many likes we're at because I can't see actually, but shout out to all the people that liked. We had 27 likes, so thank you for smashing the like button because that does help the channel a lot. So that's cool as well. I do have to go do some things and eat dinner because I'm starving. And but let me just check to see if we got any loose news while we were live that we didn't cover. We do have one piece here that says Manchester United are eyeing a move for Jan Bissek. They are constantly following him and have included him on their list of targets this summer. I'm going to be quite honest. I have absolutely no clue what position this guy plays. So I have to Google it. He's 24, German. I know he plays in the Serie A. Plays for Inter Milan. He's center back. He is a center back. He has 12 appearances. Is that the Champions League? Okay. 12 appearances in the Champions League. It's 27 appearances out of a 38 possible games for Inter Milan. His market value, according to Transfer Market, which isn't the most accurate, but it's the one that we got access to, says 30 million euros. So, and he can play left center back or right center back, even though he is right footed. So probably, right foot. Interesting. First time seeing him being linked. The source is Simone Togna, so probably not really that credible. Sounds very speculative. You know what I mean? Sounds very speculative. What else? Fabrizio Romano has confirmed that this isn't United related, but it was once. Nkunku is leaving Chelsea this summer. I swear, if we end up going for Nkunku, I will lose my shit. In a bad way, not in a good way. Fabrizio also has provided the update 27 minutes ago that Chelsea have booked a medical for Liam Delap after agreement sealed on personal terms and 30-minute release clause activated. So Delap is a Chelsea player, so Delap is done and dusted. You can forget about him. Delete all your pictures of Delap in a United kit. It's never going to happen. It's done and over. So that's one target gone. So time to shift focus and see what we're going to do now in that respect. We do have an update about the Bruno Fernandes Al Hilal Saudi Arabia thing. So let's do that one quick. Why is it always Chris Wheeler? I mean, who do you have as a connect that you're constantly getting these updates about Bruno Fernandes in Saudi Arabia? It's always Chris Wheeler. Always. Ben Jacobs also coming out and writing something as well. So let's see. Let's cover all of it. Let's not skip anything. So let's get to the beginning. Ben Jacobs said Bruno Fernandes' agent, Miguel Pino, traveled to Saudi Arabia this week to meet with Al Hilal and speak to President Fahad bin Nafal. Discussions described by Hilal sources as productive took place at the Four Seasons in Riyadh. Hey, very fancy. Talks ran late into the evening. Hilal asked earlier in the week for an answer within 72 hours as they look to firm up marquee signings ahead of the Club World Cup. Hilal are still waiting on Fernandes' decision, but pushing Saudi sources insist Bruno Fernandes is yet to reject their offer, adding significant efforts have been made in the last 2 days to try and get Fernandes green light. Manchester United's position remains they don't want to lose their captain, and no bid has arrived to date from Al Hilal. The next few days are going to be key in clarifying Fernandes' future. Okay, I mean, that's a good update. Lots of detail. I like that from Ben Jacobs. I do, because sometimes they literally just tell you Bruno Fernandes' agent, Miguel Pino, traveled to Saudi Arabia this week to meet with Al Hilal and speak to President Fahad bin Nafal. And that's it. That's the update. So, a lot of detail here. I like this. I have a few questions as to, I've seen things come out saying United don't want to lose Bruno and they're against it. But then I also seen things saying that while they are against it, they would have to strongly consider it if 100 million bid is put in. There was also talk that this is happening because United have actually said that we actually probably have to sell him because it's going to help us with the finances because we lost 100 million not being in the Champions League, and actually we really needed that, and actually we're still losing money every quarter, and actually we've lost money every quarter for the last 4 years in a row. So yeah, I think it's interesting that he writes, United's position remains they don't want to lose their captain and no bid has arrived to date. So, but I don't know if that means like if they do put in the 100 million bid, I don't know, even if United don't want to lose their captain, I don't think that means that they'll necessarily reject it. Bruno hasn't rejected it. And I also find this strange and weird because Bruno's constantly been saying, I mean, even last year and signing the contract extension, he's always said, and he's never really changed his words, that he said, as long as I'm wanted here, I will stay here. So I find it weird that he's entertaining this and hasn't rejected it if the club is telling him, we absolutely do not want to sell you, we want to stay here. It's a weird story. It's a weird sort of dynamic going on here, because what is actually the truth? What is actually the truth? Is Bruno lying? Is he actually thinking about leaving? Does he actually not want to stay here? I mean, I shouldn't say lying, but maybe he's just, not 100% on if he wants to stay. Is United the ones that are kind of saying to Bruno, we might have to sell you? So Bruno's like, all right, well, then I might have to leave. It's interesting. I want to see if there was anything else. Well, Chris Wheeler came up with his own update, so we don't have to read the Ben Jacobs one. So let's get out of that. And let's go, where's Chris Wheeler? Chris Wheeler, I want the full thing. I hate when they cut off the journalists, the aggregators. Can I speak to the aggregators, please? Like, some of you got to do a better job. You have an important thing. You have hundreds of thousands of people that follow you all over the world from United, so that we can get the news accurately. And you take like one line and you don't give us the rest of the details, and we miss half the story. So Chris Wheeler himself has tweeted in bullet points for Manchester United and said, Bruno Fernandes latest, his agent Miguel Pino has held face-to-face talks with Al Hilal and Riyadh. Meeting at Four Seasons Hotel went on late into the night. The Saudis issued a 72-hour deadline on Monday. They are ready to pay Fernandes $200 million over 3 years and $100 million to Manchester United. Somebody said, I really don't see how financially we can reject this bid, and this has been my argument the whole entire time. I have a Bruno Fernandes kit upstairs. I love Bruno Fernandes. I think he's our best player. You don't have to. That's fine. I don't think it makes a difference, really. But it's nothing personal about Bruno. My whole thing significantly shifted and changed in my understanding when we lost that final against Tottenham. Because if you're banking on that 100 million plus all the other money to make the massive changes that United need to make, that we clearly need to make, because look at the season we just had, and clearly this manager needs it, because he's not going to be able to, you need to have, you're not going to teach a hippo to fly. You have to have, a baby bird. You could teach it to fly, and the baby bird, as sad as this might be for some of you, it might fail. It might fall out the tree and not fly. And maybe it, doesn't live any longer after that. But that happens. But you're not going to teach a tiger to fly, and I know maybe this sounds stupid, but what I'm trying to say is there's players at our football club. It doesn't matter what you try and teach them. They're not going to be able to fly. We need to get players that can fly, essentially, for this manager to stand a chance. And if this is what the club wants to do, like if the club doesn't want to play 4-2-3-1 counter-attack, and they want to change the football, and they want to play in a different style, and they've chosen this manager to help them build that out, then we're not in a position to deny the 100 million when we lost the 100 million. If we won the Champions League, if we won the Europa League and we got into Champions League, and then we were able to sell everybody else, we could have had our cake and eat it too. But I feel like the repercussions to come out of losing that cup final and having the season that we had is that I don't see how financially we can actually reject this bid. I actually we actually ended up in a situation where we can't have our cake and eat it too. You know, we have to give the fucking cake away. We got to give it away. You know, I just don't see how you can continue and carry on with that sort of stuff. So, let's just see what else we got. I don't think anything else that's other than Bruno. Picture of Bruno and his agent. They kind of look the same. Maybe they say that about all Portuguese people. I don't know if that's racist or not. I'm not trying to be racist. It's a joke. Nothing else important. Nothing important. That's not important. We already covered that. Quick refresh. All right. Yeah, there's nothing left for today. We covered everything. It's been a great show. Fantastic show. Lots of viewers, lots of new people, new chatters getting involved, lots of new subscribers. I hope we get to 3,000 subscribers. It says we're at 2,990. We might be a little bit above that because that thing's a bit dodgy and it updates slowly, but sometimes it's a little bit behind. So, other than that, I appreciate everybody stopping by. I appreciate everybody that took the chance to get involved in the live chat. You know, that always helps the show out and makes the show as well. And we love to hear from everybody. It doesn't matter who you are or kind of what opinion you have, really. We love discussion on this football channel. And that's what this channel was created for. It was for people to come and share opinion and actually have your opinion actually heard and seen and read. You know, so shout out to everybody that supported today. Thank you for smashing the like button. If you want to come back, well, first of all, make sure you subscribe because we want you here with us. So subscribe if you didn't. Hit the notification bell icon so you don't miss the lives and you get notified when we are going live. You can also stay up to date by getting in the Discord if you want. If you have Discord, pop in. You know, it's okay if you don't chat or anything. Come say hi. We'll say hi back. You'll find that we're very friendly and, you know, small knit, but very good, very friendly community with some, you know, diehard Manchester United fans. And we are going to be doing a live show tomorrow at 3. Well, I'm in America, so 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which will be 8 p.m. UK time. We call it the Freestyle Friday show. Where it's, you know what, it's actually a little bit like today. Today was supposed to be more structured, but I didn't have time for it. But tomorrow is a show where we do a little bit of the news, not too much. And whatever the chat wants to talk about, we let the chat take care of it. So the chat will lead the show tomorrow. The chat will, whatever the chat wants to discuss, that's what we're going to discuss. That's what the show is going to be about. So the chat gets to do the show tomorrow. I'm just here carrying it along with you guys. And I think that's pretty much it. If you want, also get in the comments after I end the live. Give some thoughts, give some opinions. That also helps the channel out as well. So if you do that, thank you. We appreciate that very much. If you didn't hit the like button, hit the like button on your way out, please. And thank you. And other than that, everybody have a good night. And we'll be back live tomorrow. And see what, you know, the news brings us and see what happens with Manchester United. Another day in Manchester United. It's never a quiet day and it's never a dull day. You know, it hasn't been too happy in the recent times, but it's definitely not boring, that's for sure, because there's always something going on. It's like a soap opera with this football club. So, yeah, everybody take care. Have a good night. Thank you for stopping by. Appreciate every single one of you. Much love. And you know, just we'll see each other tomorrow. But other than that, take care.